She's the cold and beautiful empress from the novel, a ruthless killer. Yet she's crying, begging me to rewrite her story. And after I refused, she decided to take matters into her own hands. Not only did she transform herself into a gentle and obedient little wife, but she even pouted and demanded that I stay by her side forever. Turns out I'm just an 18th-tier novelist. I grew up without a car or a house, and my parents passed away. I went on 80 blind dates and was rejected 81 times. So I had to go home and write a loser protagonist novel. The male protagonist, Chu Tiange, was originally a useless disciple of a sect, but due to an accident, he won the heart of Empress Qiu Wuji. Yet in the end, he completely broke Qiu Wuji's heart. As I continued their story, a chill ran down my spine. The August heat couldn't stop me from feeling a cold shiver down my back. In an instant, a sharp sword was at my throat. I looked back in terror, only to see a stunning woman in ancient costume glaring fiercely at me. A chilling aura erupted from my whole body. You dare write that I've fallen for that disciple? I'd risk the world's collapse to take your life. I was so scared I retreated repeatedly. Madam, please let's talk this over calmly. But she relentlessly pressed forward. Her face, with a proud and shy expression, she said her name was Qiu Wuji, and I instantly realized. Wasn't this the name of the female lead in my novel? After stealing a glance at her, I was even more certain of my judgment. She was as beautiful as a fairy descending to earth. Besides, in reality, it's impossible for anyone to do that for me. Knife face, no eyes. Mistress, please speak calmly. Killing you requires no sword. Then curiously examined my computer, picked me up and threw me out. But she had never seen such a spiritual treasure, and I was scared out of my wits. She wouldn't be writing it herself, would she? She tapped rapidly on the keyboard, but the computer emitted a series of beeping warnings, and I was even more frantic. This fruit computer cost me 3 months' worth of royalties, but I'm even more certain that she is Qiu Wuji, who jumped out of my book. Who wouldn't know how to use a computer in the year 9021? Luckily, I regained control of the computer in time. What do you want to write? I'll help you. She propped up her small head and pondered for a while. Just write that I, your master, have attained enlightenment, ascended, and broken the limitations of mortals and gods. But I feel that doesn't fit the story's setting. Then, the next moment, the sharp sword was at my forehead again. Kid, are you going to write or not? Looking at her resentful expression, I could only agree. My fingers flew across the keyboard. Suddenly, I felt a sense of boundless freedom, as if the heavens had opened. The heavens opened in that instant. My body radiated golden light, feeling immensely uplifted. But I waited for a full 2.5 minutes. Her body remained where it was. Her mood also plummeted after that. She never imagined that her creator god was merely a weak scholar, a man who couldn't even fight a chicken. Even her emotions fluctuated with the strokes of his pen. Seeing her pitiful state, I felt a pang of sympathy. I comforted her, saying it was all destined, and I can't directly interfere with the story's protagonist's actions or destiny. Your appearance perfectly proves this point. Unexpectedly, she suddenly turned hostile. You mean I've fallen for that? It's his own choice. I sense trouble. This is really shooting myself in the foot. But she merely turned her head towards the window. No matter what method you use, you see Anya continue to write that I and Chu Tiange have any connection. If you're going to write that, you don't need to write it far away. In a second, she disappeared from the spot with a blue light. This sudden change really blew my CPU. The Supreme Creator is actually being threatened by their own paper characters. But I do have a bold idea. As my enter key was pressed, a bolt of lightning struck Qiu Wuji. But she didn't dodge, she took the lightning strike head-on. After a long while, she quietly opened her eyes. The image of that man diligently typing at his computer flashed through her mind again. She, who had cultivated since birth, now began to doubt her own actions. Does anything truly matter? Are all her thoughts and feelings just a predetermined plot written by others? Especially since the creator god is such a pathetic weakling. But the good news is, she now understands the truth. The top priority is finding a way to break through the boundaries at any time. And the method of staying for a long time. She looked at the starry sky and murmured to herself, how could I possibly like a useless disciple? Even if I really wanted to find a man, it should be the creator. But as soon as she said this, she blushed. How could I have said such a thing? But then she suddenly remembered something. How dare he? Meanwhile, I was comfortably stretching. Finally finished working overtime for 2.5 hours. And finished writing the ending to this chapter. Little did she know, the proud girl drew her sword again and sought out one. The woman, to escape marriage, cultivated for 2.5 years, achieving 7 ascensions. Only to discover her creator was just a writing intern. Though the intern was a bit silly, he possessed the ability to bring his characters into reality. And upon seeing the outline of the event, the woman, she actually softened towards her father god, even drawing her sword. It's all because, according to the plot, the year after she became pregnant before marriage and gave birth to 5 children for the male lead. And after a rebellion, she even became a young widow. To protect myself and survive, I had no choice but to change the novel's plot. With a press of my enter key. I'll be damned. The father of my child is actually myself. So Chiu Wuji transformed into a blue light in front of me yesterday. I finally managed to get rid of that plague. But a wave of melancholy washed over me. To get revenge on her, I used the novel. Her beloved was changed to me, self-made. I didn't expect my change to receive. Yes, it's true. It got unanimous praise from the fans. However, they don't think Chiu Wuji would directly fall in love with the creator god. Some even bet in the comment section. But he didn't know that the person on the other side was the author herself. Thinking about this, I decided to take a gamble and rewrite the plot. Anyway, the worst case scenario is just starting over with a new book. I was just about to ask my roommate, a fellow writer, for some advice. But before I could knock on the door, I saw his packed suitcase. And I instantly understood my good friend's intentions. At the dinner table, Zhang Qiren talked about his difficulties and helplessness. His new work, which he had been working on for 2.5 years, was reported and removed from the platform. Only he himself understands the hardships of the lower class. Although he sacrificed everything for his writing, he had no choice but to go to the factory to work to make a living. From then on, only my lonely silhouette remained under the moonlight. I'm well aware that my external circumstances aren't really that different from his. Approaching 30, I'm still alone. Just then, a figure turned, and our eyes met. But the next moment, they quickly ran away. But I didn't pay any attention to it. Instead, I returned alone to that deathly silent room. From now on, I won't even have anyone to talk to. But then, a sword was suddenly placed at my neck. Chiu Wuji reappeared behind me, I didn't know when. Was that line you wrote a plea for death? But I wasn't afraid at all. Instead, he said thank you to her. Chiu Wuji's head was filled with stars. She thought the man before her must be seriously ill. But I just looked at her, speechless for a long time. Finally, I subconsciously said, it's good you're here. But she still trembled the long sword in her hand. But my single sentence pierced her heart. I don't remember writing that I liked you. You hold a sword to others' throats, but you usually just chop. Holding it like this means you don't want to kill. Hearing this, she was even more furious. How does this fire know me so well? Then, Jean Lei's face approached my Adam's apple to within 2.5 meters. You brat, why did you write that I'm into men? Change it back. I cowered in the corner, trembling. But she still pressed relentlessly, demanding answers. Speak. Dumbstruck. I had no choice but to take out my phone to show her the manuscript. Once it's released, it can't be changed. Unexpectedly, her temper wasn't very good. The next moment, I figured I was about to be silenced. I quickly said I could work overtime. You're trying to transcend tribulation outside the scenes I've written. That's why you're able to appear here. But have you considered how dangerous this actually is? After all, it's only your divine sense that's come here. She just gave me a light warning glance. Are you concerned about me? But I didn't respond to her. In this world, I can't even control my own destiny. And you, knowing your destiny is just ink on paper, still want to control your own future. For that alone, I will help you. Her eyes gradually dimmed at that moment. But a hand reached out in front of her. Let's get reacquainted. My name is Chu Gu, a jobless, good-for-nothing writer. Would you like to come with me and see this brand new world? Do you know why this bowl of beef noodles made the ancient girl blush? Today, I offered help to the wandering girl, but she puffed out her cheeks angrily. Then she shook her little fist at me. You lecher. Trying to grope me already? You think you know who I am, Chiu Wuji. Only then did I realize that her era didn't have the custom of shaking hands. This top cultivator, who just transmigrated from the novel I wrote into the real world, was helpless like a lost kitten at that moment. I suggested taking the girl out for a stroll. Hearing this, her eyes suddenly lit up. But once on the street, she looked bewildered again. Someone was holding a small square object, seemingly communicating with someone far away. Someone clicked a photo with the food from a street vendor, and some people were just waving their hands. He displayed his fire control technique, but the flames here showed no signs of spiritual energy. Ordinary people were actually doing things only immortals could accomplish. I sensed her nervousness. Then I led her into a Lanzhou hand-pulled noodle restaurant. I ordered a bowl of beef noodle soup. I turned to ask her if she wanted to try some. After hesitating for a moment, she nodded. In my mind, she was already beyond earthly desires. Unexpectedly, as soon as she took her first bite, she made a loud smacking noise. So fairies need to eat, huh? She doesn't look like a terrifying matriarch at all right now. But Chiu Wuji sensed the strange looks from the other diners around us. He lowered his voice and asked me, didn't you say no one would care about my outfit? And now? I just pointed to my short sleeves. It's summer now. Do you think everyone is impervious to heat and cold like you? Facing my boss's questioning expression, I cleared my throat. 2D anime, you know. But Chiu Wuji became gloomy. In her world, mundane resources are scarce, and the people barely survive. There's plenty of meat everywhere. Why did you write it that way? That's how it was in ancient times. But I don't want you to consider your world as false. After all, that kind of thinking, it wasn't my Chiu Wuji. although she didn't say a word. She clearly wasn't good at hiding her expression. The man before her was actually the most familiar stranger to her. She silently followed behind me without saying a word. Not until I got home and turned on my computer did I begin to tell her what happened next in the novel. I described the unfolding plot, from her initial advantage against the poisonous hand demon lord, to her being ambushed, falling into the pool, and being poisoned. And at that moment, her disciple, Chu Tiange, stumbled upon the scene. I stumbled into the cave where she was trapped. Unexpectedly, she gave me a powerful punch to the face. "You little rascal. Do you intend to write me into a cheesy, cliched romance story?" A cliched romance story found in cheap novels. Seeing her puffed up, angry face, I had no choice but to change the plot to her detoxifying herself at the bottom of the pool. Evening came in a blink. But I suddenly couldn't find Xiao Wuji. Having just left the bedroom, I found her, lost in thought, gazing at the moon. "You could actually find something to do to keep yourself busy." But she said she couldn't do anything. I find everything novel. But someone always needs to explain things to me. Otherwise, what if I break it again like last time? And you're not exactly rolling in money. So I had to introduce her to plasma TVs. This is to show you the modern way of life. The next moment, her face flushed crimson. I didn't expect that pressing the set-top box would bring up this image. I sensed she was about to get angry. I quickly said I pressed the wrong button, and the Italian Cianions in the war drama further startled her into a defensive posture. "I don't want to watch this anymore. I want to watch history. Watch me take out my phone and open Taobao." She curiously leaned her head closer. "Will someone send you books if you do that? Is it telepathy or a flying sword delivering books? And how long does it usually take to get there?" Noticing the awkward atmosphere, she and I simultaneously looked away. But her next words left me speechless. "It's getting late. If it's convenient for you, I'll stay the night. Do you know how ancient women used the toilet to cheer up?" I had no choice but to agree. I taught her modern forms of entertainment, but I had only just turned on the remote, and her face instantly flushed red. I didn't expect the children's CHNL to be showing an action movie. She turned her head away, showing disinterest. But after I took out my phone, she craned her neck closer again. "What is this dark, clunky brick?" I was just about to explain, when a unique fragrance suddenly filled my nostrils. At that moment, Xiao Wuji was like an inquisitive child, not at all like the world's #1 cultivator I imagined. Perhaps sensing that we were too close, we tacitly turned our heads away at the same time. But she hemmed and hawed for ages, only to utter a request to stay the night. This sudden turn of events nearly knocked my jaw off. I quickly hid back in my room. "The room next door is vacant. You can make do with it for now." But she angrily exhaled. "What is that lecher thinking?" She sat cross-legged on the unfurnished wooden bed. Then she closed her eyes and entered a meditative state. And I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. It's a character I created myself. Yet, it hasn't been long before I started to not understand her thoughts. Under the moonlight, the two of them were separated only by a wall. But Xiao Wuji's heart was even more complex at this moment. This was the first time in her life she had lived with a boy, and the object was actually my own creator god. The next day, I woke up before dawn, my sleep far from restful. As a rising writer, even going to the toilet means painfully writing. It took me 2.5 hours to finally click publish. I was very satisfied with my hairstyle, but then I turned around and saw Xiao Wuji outside the door. "What are you spacing out for? You didn't even make a sound." But she just stared at me resentfully. Her face was even flushed red. Seeing her little hand tugging at her clothes, I suddenly realized she needed to go to the toilet. I told her there was only my toothbrush and towel here. "What's a toothbrush?" I pointed to the dressing table. "A toothbrush is used to clean the oral cavity, just like how you ancients used willow branches dipped in salt." Before the sound died down, she grabbed my collar. "You want to stuff what's in your mouth into mine?" This short-tempered woman, I don't know what sudden fit she had. She directly threw me onto the sofa in the living room. "I'm just reminding you that these are mine. Where's this bad mood coming from?" She opened her mouth. Her face flushed red again, but she didn't say anything. She slammed the door shut. Although I was very angry at the time, I suddenly realized she was also a girl. Maybe she was just feeling really bad, or maybe she started her period and needed sanitary napkins. I was packing up to go out, thinking I should still buy her some daily necessities, but the door had just closed. Xiao Wuji came out of the bathroom, but what met her eyes was an empty living room. Everything was still so orderly. She searched the room several times, but couldn't find the man. She picked up the pig plush from the sofa. She sat there helplessly, dazed. "Where is he? Where did he go? Did I say something too harsh and upset him?" At this moment, Xiao Wuji, this is what the sect leader of the Ding Fengyan sect looks like. And when the door was finally opened after a long time, a flash of joy crossed her heart. But quickly, she lowered her head again, like a lost and dejected little wildcat. And I silently offered her breakfast. "I don't know your eating habits, but for us mortals, not eating breakfast is bad for the stomach." She looked at the plastic tumbler I bought her, her eyelids drooping slightly. It had a picture of a cute Xianxia girl printed on it. Sorry. Do you know why this little piece of cloth would make an ancient maiden blush? Today, I brought an ancient maiden to a clothing store, but she was so nervous and flustered. She dawdled in the fitting room for 2.5 hours all by herself, and after she lifted the curtain, this mass-murdering female demon has transformed into a gentle and lovely little wife. Not only does she blush and ask for my opinion, but she also wants to show me her unknown side. It turns out she's the sex empress from my novel. Having crossed over to the real world, she's helpless, like a lost kitten. After learning that I went out only to bring her a warm breakfast, she showed an even more apologetic expression. I'm sorry, I thought you were going to leave me here alone. I mean, in this world, she and I still need time to adjust to each other. Looking at her bewildered expression, I continued to explain. While there's nothing wrong with wearing this outfit outside, if you want to stay here for a long time, you need to consider more modern attire. But when she took my phone, her eyes widened in shock, because what suddenly caught her eye were various underwear advertisements. Seeing her puffed up look, I calmly munched on my steamed bun. I knew she would be stunned by this stuff, but I still had to clearly establish the creator's position in this house. But she only pondered for a moment. Take me to buy some clothes. I'll pay you back for the money and board and lodging. How do you plan to repay me? If I remember correctly, your avatar can't carry items out, so the clothes and sword you're wearing are illusions. Seeing her stubborn look, I continued. Even if you want to rob the rich to help the poor, it's not allowed. In this world, you are walking 500,000 yuan. And you can't live stream either. Xiao Jianghe next door is already famous. Besides, you are so high-minded, how could you choose to sell your art? I told her that she also needed an ID card. It's like a pass token between different sects. She lowered her head and pondered for a while. It seemed like she had made an extremely important decision. If you don't mind, I could learn to write books like you. I, Xiao Wuji, roam the world. I don't believe I don't even have a way to make money to survive. Before I could retort, she covered my mouth. Let's go. Take me to buy a set of clothes from this world. At that moment, her beauty was unearthly. My heart skipped a beat. I immediately took her to the mall. Unexpectedly, before Xiao Wuji could even start shopping, she was surrounded by shop assistants asking questions. The envious light in their eyes was almost overflowing. In the end, she chose a heavier-looking outfit. Then, with a whoosh, she pulled the changing room curtain closed. Clearly, the shop assistants outside mistook her for my girlfriend. Hearing this, Xiao Wuji blushed crimson. How did she become my girlfriend? What exactly did she mean by girlfriend? She hesitated for a moment. Then she took off the garment I'd never seen before. 10 seconds later, my eyes widened in surprise. I never expected the sect leader of the Zhaoxian female sect to appear. She's so beautiful in her OL outfit. She looks like something out of a book. A stunning, icy female CEO standing right here. But the clerk then notices she's wearing an ancient-style bra underneath. So he asks her what size she needs. Aren't you supposed to sell clothes? Why did you suddenly ask about the cup? I have a cup. Seeing her helpless expression, I quickly helped her out. Let's try AD first. Then she started stammering again. I'm not used to seeing your legs exposed like that. I think I saw others wearing socks over them. Didn't you mention this to the shopkeeper? I blinked my eyes. How about black ones? After tidying up, she adjusted her legs. She still felt ashamed of the lacy thing underneath. People in this world are so strange. There's a huge difference between wearing this and not wearing anything. She noticed the man in front of her had a strange look in his eyes. What are you looking at, you little rascal? Is there something wrong with my farmer's outfit? What's wrong? Don't you see many people on the street dressed like that? It's just that they're not as pretty as you. But she didn't respond to what I said. Instead, she asked expressionlessly, so, what does girlfriend mean? Do you know what made the ancient girl show this expression? Today, I took the ancient girl to a clothing store. After she hesitated for a while, wearing modern clothes, she turned into a shy, well-behaved girl. At this moment, she also noticed the strange glances from everyone. Answer me quickly, you brat. Does this outfit feel strange? The shop assistant chimed in. Your girlfriend really suits this OL outfit. Seeing her flustered expression, I quickly paid and took her away from there. But as soon as she got home with me, she plopped down on the sofa. Why does this black thing you picked out feel so weird? In our world, even the wealthiest families don't have such comfortable materials. I didn't dare look her in the eyes. Hey, you mentioned the stockings yourself. She relentlessly pressed me for an answer. So, what does girlfriend mean? I had just uttered the words Dao Lu, Taoist couple, but I noticed her face darken. You little rascal, are you itching for a beating? Luckily, I reacted quickly and hurried to explain. You know, Dao Lu, Taoist couple, isn't as narrow-minded as you think. It simply means companions of the same path. It can be between men and women. Look at us, we share the same aspirations and are closer than friends. Aren't we a perfect match, then? Then what constitutes a perfect match? You see, I hesitate to answer. She puffed out her cheeks in anger. Then she turned her head and silently muttered to herself. This fire purification ceremony is so bland. According to this explanation, a girlfriend is clearly a lover. But for some reason, looking at this clumsy man before her, she couldn't bring herself to be angry. Is this my first step towards integrating into the world? I received my affirmative reply. She continued to question me about her identity. While I answered, I also turned on the TV I hadn't watched in 2.5 years. Unexpectedly, at the beginning of the episode, Xiao Wuji asked, "Is Shanghai the name of a city? What is a subway? Do we have one here? And what is this Pac-Man thing?" At that moment, she and I were leaning back against the same sofa. What is a husband? Is this what my husband means? I only just realized that she, usually so quiet, now has questions as numerous as beans. In a moment, her eyes lit up. It turns out it was the strawberry cake in the advertisement. That caught her attention. I didn't expect the usually aloof empress to be such a foodie. But this time, she didn't give me any orders. Xiao Wuji's gaze dimmed at this moment. That thing seems to be more important than men. The soy milk and steamed buns she eats are much more expensive, even if we're in the same world. The character's living standards are also vastly different. He doesn't get it. So he's resentful. That's why he wrote this story. The story of a boy who has nothing, climbing step by step through his own efforts. The wildflowers he picked were his reward, and I was the tallest flower among the boys. After a while I noticed the atmosphere become somewhat subtle. I looked towards Chocho, but she forced a wry smile at me. "You should have more important things to do. If I remember correctly, weren't you going to update another chapter?" She nudged me and told me to get back to my own work. How come this she-devil is so considerate in modern clothes? Before, she would just start hitting people. Watching her turn towards the sofa, it's really starting to feel like home. My life, because of her appearance, is slowly beginning to feel like a home. But just as I was thinking this, I felt a little dizzy. Chocho, sitting there, began to slowly fade. "It seems your patch didn't keep me here for long. I'll try to stay longer next time." My heart skipped a beat, but before I could rush over, the hall echoed, and she was gone. Only her clothes remained on the floor. I couldn't even take a single thread with me. I stared blankly at the empty house, speechless for a long time. The home we just built was gone in an instant, like a joke. She was originally a cold and aloof empress who had killed countless people, yet now, she's become gentle and lovely. Even while I'm out, she constantly longs for my return. It's because she spent 2.5 days with me in the real world. It made me feel like I had a home. But the next moment, she returned from reality to the two-dimensional world. It was like a dream, as if worlds apart. Although she's disappeared from before me, her scent still lingers on the black stockings. I suppressed my perverted thoughts. Before, I might have already used them. But right now, I have absolutely no such thoughts. I silently put them away and threw them into the washing machine. Listening to the whirring of the machine, I stood there lost in thought for a long while. I recalled bits and pieces of my life with Xiao Wuji, and suddenly I felt a sense of heartbreak. But in the end, I shook my head and went into the room to write. Yet the storyline I had planned beforehand. I've been stuck for ages, completely blocked. No matter how I try, I can't get into the role. As soon as I write Xiao Wuji's name, her every smile and expression instantly flood my mind. Even the places where she hit me still ache. I started to wonder how much influence she still has on me now that I'm writing about her. Because she's now a completely real person. Now I'm writing Xiao Wuji's guidance to Chu Tiange. Can she still tell whether it's something she herself wants to teach or something I wrote? Thinking about this, my thoughts are in chaos, making it hard to write. I had to force out 2,000 characters before hastily hitting the publish button. I opened my phone to check the fans' comments, but I found their criticism surprisingly consistent. They all said the writing was short and weak. I've gone to all this trouble, and this is all you've got. But then, to my surprise, I found that my casual descriptions had surprisingly won their unanimous praise. It was as if I had written it directly to them. As a useless writer with 2.5 years of experience, this is one of the few times I've been praised. To hide my feelings, I casually threw out an emoticon. Even though it was bustling with people, it felt like another world. Meanwhile, in another world, Xiao Wuji opened his eyes from within the secret room. Zi Bao still wore the solemn Grandmaster's robes, compared to the uniform she wore earlier. The silky feel was like a dream. She breathed out and left the secret chamber. Waiting for her were the long-awaiting Dharma protector disciples. All of them looked tense. It said that there might be a Qinglong shed scales in the One Snake Cave, 10,000 li southwest. Xiao Wuji responded with a smile. I understand. The disciples stared, momentarily lost in thought. For decades, they had never seen their sect leader smile. But Xiao Wuji was only sulking inwardly. The original text by Chu Gu says, Xiao Wuji said lightly, I refuse. She cleared her throat twice. This item, I must obtain it. I must go there myself. This matter was it a clue Chu Tiange discovered in the Nanjiang market? Go get him. These words stunned the elder, leaving him rooted to the spot. How did the sect master know everything about us, having just left seclusion? But the sect master's demeanor didn't seem like a random guess. He had no choice but to summon some core disciples from the training grounds. He also called Chu Tiange over. Chu Tiange paid her a deep bow as soon as she entered the assembly hall. Qi Wuji's eyes no longer held the killing intent they once did. Instead, they held amusement. She found that this Chu Tiange resembled Chu Gu somewhat. He looked almost like a self-created alt-account. Strictly speaking, is Chu Gu now competing with his own son for a woman? She's a powerful empress who's lived for over 1,000 years. Yet she blushed at a teenage boy. But she doesn't like her own useless disciple. She thinks Chu Tiange resembles Chu Gu, because that's how Chu Gu wrote himself into the story as the main character. It looks exactly like his little brother. So that means, is Chu Gu competing with his own son for a woman? This realization made her forget the frustration of being entangled in this mess. She felt like laughing, but she was secretly smiling from the main seat. Meanwhile, Chu Tiange's heart was filled with terror, because he sensed a murderous aura in the sect master's eyes. Did I do something wrong? But the next moment, Qiu Wuji was about to reward him for discovering clues about the azure dragon shedding its scales. This is a great contribution to our sect. Do you want a reward from me? I dare not. This is my duty as a disciple. Then I grant you permission to enter the 3rd floor of the scripture pavilion to comprehend for 7 days. You may choose one Xian level cultivation technique at will. Hearing the sect master's words, all the disciples were greatly shocked and dismayed. They had never seen the sect master so flustered. However, Qiu Wuji merely curled his lip. Could it be that I have to personally instruct him? Just deal with it and be done with it. Besides, he looks rather pitiful. I thought I was fighting my own battles all along, but it was all just a script someone else had already written. Chu Tiange hasn't started fasting yet, right? Order the kitchen to give him an extra bowl of beef noodles today as encouragement. The entire sect was dumbfounded when they heard this, but the sect master didn't seem to be joking. 7 days passed in a flash. Qiu Wuji, on her sword, soared through the air. She looked at the disciples crammed onto their magic treasures behind her. She wondered about that other world, and how fast its vehicles traveled. She compared her method to theirs, wondering which was better, but she subconsciously pressed down on her collar. Chu Gu wrote, "My collar flutters in the wind. I won't." She looked at Chu Tiange behind her. This fire is full of that villain's shadow, but he diligently cultivates. It's indeed an excellent quality. Although all of this is a setting written by that male lead, there's nothing to praise, but I refuse to follow the plot he wrote. This test is to ask how heaven wills it. But a strange feeling arose in her heart. I wonder if that fool ate on time today. After all, he looks so weak. Meanwhile, I'm extremely worried. If I want Qiu Wuji to stay in this world, I have to find an identity for her. I can't just tell the police she's a time traveler. Let her show off some immortal arts. Maybe she'll be treated as a VIP guest. After all, even Qigong masters are doing live streaming sales now. What's more, Qiu Wuji even knows longevity techniques. Those superstitious people love that kind of thing. But speaking of live streaming, should I go learn a few tricks from Jiang He next door? What am I even thinking? If that were the case, Qi Wuji would definitely be captured for dissection research. Or, she would be deprived of her freedom. She certainly wouldn't want to be in that situation. Especially since she's a woman I created. Who knows, maybe I'll even marry her and have 5 kids. Thinking about this, I made up my mind. How could a tempestuous empress like me be confined to a single identity? But at that moment, my stomach started rumbling. I'd better get on with writing this copy. Otherwise, I can't even afford to eat, let alone date a goddess and make her my wife. After all, buying her clothes last time drained my savings of 2.5 years. But Qiu Wuji's interference in my plot is somehow like a writer who wants a harem but is forced by his wife to write a story with only one female lead. But now I feel that exploring the connection between the two worlds with her is quite interesting. For a harem novel writer like me, it's a very interesting thing. I must know how she came out of the book. And what if the 2D Chanel closes again one day? What if we're madly in love at that time? That would be fatal. Lin Muyang on the other side just called me. He looked troubled. Because I wanted him to help Qiu get an ID card. But nowadays, there are no unregistered households left. Perhaps a small number still exist in impoverished mountainous areas. Right, we also have a class reunion. Remember to check the group chat. He just hung up. He bumped into a long-haired beauty head-on. Watching the woman walk into the room, Lin Wuyang couldn't help but exclaim. The woman before him was so beautiful. It's a pity he was married. He couldn't help but lament, if only we'd met before I was married. She was here to request the materials from a while ago. To be honest, it's a bit difficult. We need some time. I'll be staying in Nanjiang City for a while longer. I hope there will be good news. At this moment, the cave described in the book, Qiu Wuji had already entered the deepest level. Above the pool of water, a strange scale was floating. Qiu Wuji knew this was the azure dragon shedding its scales. She didn't leap forward. Instead, she tried to use the ribbon in her hand to gather the dragon scales. But the scales remained motionless. Even so, vital energy surged towards her through the ribbon. But Qiu Wuji simply held her breath, concentrating, slowly absorbing this vital energy. I saw the dragon scales begin to move. The next moment, a bloody demonic hand appeared behind her. I clicked post with a snap. The comments section exploded, but I was thrilled. Sound effects guy, if I didn't write it like this, how would you follow the next chapter? But the next chapter is the key. The girl tears off a small, bloody cloth. She wants to pull the magic artifact closer, but a perverted old man appears behind her. He tries to take advantage of the situation and put a snail into the girl's skirt. But the girl simply closes her eyes. She let the pervert attack, because she knew this whole plot was just a novel, and she already knew the entire plot of the novel. Xiao Wuji dropped the small piece of cloth and turned around to, truly worthy of the name Gan Li Qingqiu Mang Wuji. Her spiritual sense was as calm as the moon reflected in water. Sect Master Qiu's reaction is quick. Since you know, why don't you reveal yourself? An emaciated old man appeared. His face was skin and bones. He's trained his people to look like skeletons. Suddenly, I feel their skill is just average. Writing villain is like labeling someone a villain. Qi Wuji stopped fighting as soon as he appeared, but the man had a disgusted expression. We're all at the same level. I don't understand what this guy is saying, but the woman calmly said, you infiltrated this place yesterday, yet you couldn't break through this level's maze. She waited for me to break through the formation and then followed secretly. Damn it! How does that woman know everything? The sneak attack failed, so I have to use my wits. Xiao Zongfen, everything should be done in order. This seat came first, shouldn't those who see it get a share? Simultaneously with Yu Ji, a fish note, entertainment, is likely a typo and should be you, fish. It slipped away along the ground. Finders keepers, I agree. But the next moment, she condensed countless sword lights. Just like this moment, I see you. Therefore, your life is mine. Is this woman crazy? Why didn't he retort? His counterattack was a killing blow. Moreover, this narrow cave offers no place to hide. He didn't have time to use a countermeasure. He could only wave the blood banner in his hand to barely resist the woman's ultimate attack. But Xiao Wuji merely flicked her finger. His magical treasure was instantly shattered. I thought I was a match for Xiao Wuji. But when we truly clashed, I discovered that Xiao Wuji's strength far surpassed mine. A thought flashed through my mind at that moment. Even if it meant self-destructing, I had to escape with my primordial spirit. Unexpectedly, the UNManied snail behind me. It had already crawled into the dragon pool by itself. The aura above the dragon pool caused it to swell. Fortunately, Xiao Wuji was well prepared. He silently recited the incantation, causing the snail to shatter into pieces. But the tremendous shockwave from the explosion was about to cause the entire cave to collapse. Endless autumn ribbons surrounded us, barely withstanding the falling rubble. But a cruel glint flashed in the poisonous hand demon lord's eyes. His body exploded like a snail. This human bomb was tens of thousands of times more violent than a snail. Even Xiao Wuji, at the heavenly Dao realm, couldn't withstand it. I was violently swept towards the Zhuilong pool and fell. I will avenge this ruin of my body. But Xiao Wuji was powerless to stop the escaping primordial spirit, because the poisonous gas from the Zhuilong pool instantly flooded her body. But she only had one thought in her mind. I clearly knew the plot of the novel, but I didn't deal with the poisonous hand demon lord snail snake immediately. If the world's trajectory is different from what Chu Gu wrote, wouldn't everything be in chaos? I'm clearly a resolute person, but there's a slight possibility. Could it be that I'm worried Chu Rome might have a problem? At best, it'll ruin his studies and affect his grades. At worst, it could affect his health and safety. Why am I missing that idiot so much right now? Why do I miss that fool so much at this moment? Perhaps everyone has a different definition of happiness. This ancient girl is happy just eating instant noodles, watching TV, eating cute little snacks, would feel incredibly happy. And a man, just watching his beloved girl happy, is happy, but she is gradually disappearing before my eyes, leaving behind only a pile of sweetly scented clothes. Because she is the sect empress from my novel, she can't stay in the real world for too long. But after her battle with the poisonous hand demon lord yesterday, she fell into the bottom of the dragon transformation pool. The poisonous gas in the pool instantly surged into her body, but instead of escaping, she continued to descend. Because in the following story, she held her sword to my neck and forced me to rewrite it. Xiao Wuji found the antidote at the bottom of the pool herself. It had nothing to do with Chu Tiange, but in the original story, his disciple, Chu Tiange, happened to stumble into the cave, and saw his master poisoned by a love-inducing toxin. Their love story began from there. But this time, the plot unfolds quite differently. Before Chu Tiange could speak, Xiao Wuji opened his eyes and smiled slightly. The poison in my body is not a serious problem. I know you have a snake saliva fruit in your pocket that can counteract the poison. Keep it for yourself to use in alchemy. That's a precious thing. The young man froze in place. The sect master's calculations are truly unfathomable. Of course someone so powerful can resolve their own poisoning. He felt a deep sense of awe for the sect master. Xiao Wuji watched his back as he left, knowing that someone's chaotic red thread had reached this point. It's truly and completely severed. This instance was originally designed for Chu Tiange. Its purpose was to allow him to gain Chiu Wuji's recognition. But this time, the sect master herself is the one refining the dragon scales. She entered a meditative state on the spot, but her mind was on that idiot who writes novels. I wonder when I'll go back next. How much longer can I stay? Meanwhile, in the real world, I received a flood of abuse from my fans, but I was incredibly happy. I severed the red thread between her and Chu Chinga. That way, that woman has no reason to abuse me anymore. That being said, I still have a nagging feeling of unease. As a harem novel, it's whetted the reader's appetites for nothing. The final outcome is the same as no outcome at all. If I were reading this myself, I'd be cursing. But I don't want to write the original plot now. I'm jealous of the protagonist I created. I guess I'm the first one to do this, but I don't regret it one bit. I wouldn't regret it even if it was for Chiu Wuji's vibrant and charming smile. But this means the novel is going to flop. Looking at the dismal traffic, I sighed. I stood up to get some water. As I turned around, I was speechless with shock. Chiu Wuji was standing quietly behind me. His gaze seemed to have just been lifted from a webpage he had been looking at. It fell upon my face. Time seemed to freeze for 2.5 minutes. After a long while, she smiled slightly, her voice very soft. I'm back. Do you know why these little black strips of cloth? Would it make an ancient girl's face as red as a monkey's bottom? She remembered when she left last time. Her own private undergarments she was wearing were in Chu Ji's hands the moment she turned around. She didn't even know what he had done with them. Chiu Wuji turned around and started swinging her tiny fists. You damned scoundrel. I was feeling down and refreshed the webpage again yesterday. When I turned around, I saw Chiu Wuji standing silently behind me. She was afraid of disturbing my writing. She had been waiting behind me for a long time. When I turned around, she just smiled slightly. I'm back. But I don't know why, hearing those 4 simple words, my anxious heart felt like it had been gently soothed. I asked her about the poisonous hand demon king. She said she was still poisoned, but felt that important events would unfold according to. I wrote that it would self-correct. Are you suffering from the poison? It was just a casual question, but she froze on the spot. This is a question that no one, including Chu Chinga, has ever asked any of the major characters. Even the most loyal elders and disciples didn't. Everyone else sees her as a powerful sect leader, omnipotent. I'm fine. It's healing quickly. Watch me take a deep breath. Is he worried about me? What's this feeling of being cherished like? I'm a little annoyed, but also warm. I poured a cup of hot tea. If I were to write that the poisonous hand demon lord died at your hands instead of his spirit escaping, he should be dead. Then why write that he escaped? Such a strong villain should be left for the protagonist to use as a stepping stone. If you kill him off early, you'd have to create another one. It's unnecessary. She rolled her eyes. So you're our destined one, huh? Feeling pretty smug, are we? Our meeting was destined, but this destiny wasn't me. The girl turned and busied herself. Said nothing. I quickly changed the subject. Are there any quick ways to become stronger? The contents of the book are all made up. I don't know any magic. The girl tilted her head in thought. It's possible, but the spiritual energy in this realm is very thin. Even if I trained, there probably wouldn't be much effect. Is this a patch to prevent me from becoming too powerful? Although she feels it's useless, she still can't resist my eager expression. She passed the decree to me, but I found that the decree was different from what I had written. It was more like the world had derived it based on my understanding of the Taoist scriptures. My deluded self-understanding of the Taoist scriptures. My younger sister became interested in the Taoist scriptures of the real world. I proudly showed her these learning materials. There are dozens of gigabytes in the C drive. The girl doesn't understand what dozens of gigabytes means. Let's get back to the main topic. I'll teach you the method of chi cultivation first. The 12 main meridians are the primary focus, and the extraordinary meridians are secondary. Wait, where are the 12 main meridians? What is chi cultivation? The girl's eyes widened. You wrote this? And then you ask me where the seriousness is? I thought you understood after reading so much Taoist scripture. People like this created our world. She finally couldn't hold it in any longer. She threw me onto the sofa and beat me up, but I didn't feel any pain. Instead, I smelled a fragrant scent. She hit me gently for a while, then felt it was pointless. So she got up huffily. But the next moment, she realized something's fluttering on the balcony. It's a pair of stockings she once wore. They look like someone crumpled them up in their hands. The girl's face instantly flushed red. She hadn't expected to leave her underwear behind. And she can't even go and beat him up. After all, it just looks like I helped with the laundry. But an empress who has lived for thousands of years isn't like the innocent Xiao Jianghe next door who doesn't know anything. From now on, I will do my own laundry. Is there a shortcut to becoming a master quickly? This is the question Chu Bujisher most wanted to ask. I originally thought I had found an ancient girl, who I could learn immortal cultivation and swordsmanship from, but I only tried practicing my luck for a bit, and I gave up after only 2.5 minutes. There are no shortcuts to cultivation. It's a peaceful era now. There aren't many scenes of fighting and killing like in TV dramas. Even when I spar with her, I just get beaten up. Seeing my weak and pathetic appearance, the she-tiger turned her head away, but the next moment, she sensed something. Her own stockings were crumpled and fluttering in the wind. It felt like they'd been crumpled in someone's hands. A blush quickly spread across her cheeks. Her lips moved for a long time before she finally managed a sentence. "Don't wash my clothes anymore." "I will. I'll do it myself." I was just about to get up, but the next moment, it was like I was struck by lightning. "Don't look at me like that. I haven't done anything." Could I have been having a dream about objective sexuality? "It's over, I'm going to get it again." I carefully backed away, but she didn't make a move towards me. A man and a woman living together. Can we just say it's a romantic affair and that's all there is to it? From now on, I'll handle such clothes myself. I was too preoccupied last time to figure it out. It could also save you some money, but I shook my head. It's not that I didn't figure it out. It's that you deliberately want to fit into this world. Since it's come to this, it's better to be thorough. Besides, my manuscript fee has already been credited. You don't need to rush to pay me back. Unexpectedly, the 3-year-older, mature woman wasn't so easy to fool. "Stinky rascal. I think you want a physical item of clothing to do something with, right? I'll beat you up. I'm not a pervert. It's just that I find tangible objects more real than illusions. Because the day you left your clothes behind was far more impactful than your first disappearance. It made me truly feel the separation, even though I knew she was still sulking. But I laughed. Because she was even more vibrant this time. She was even more like a fairy from a 2D world descending to Earth. She put on her clothes. Walking out, she was once again a sophisticated, elegant OL and a powerful woman. Meeting my sparkling eyes. "In your own book, you'd definitely be the villain." Before I could explain, she added, "It seems the Chu Tiange in your writing is quite well hidden in front of me, at least better than your acting." "Chu Tiange, I really have no feelings for you right now. But don't go back and beat him up. That would mean admitting you do have feelings. It would be pointless to beat him up, wouldn't it? But my brain is racing." Although, the way she specifically transformed into a girl wearing socks is kind of cute. But if she understands the true purpose of black stockings, wouldn't she think everyone in this world is a lecher? She had me sit cross-legged and showed me my meridians. But I couldn't move because I'd been cooped up indoors for so long. She came forward to adjust my posture. And our faces were directly opposite each other. But the next moment, I received a hard blow to my head. "You scoundrel, what are you thinking about again? Whose guts can't see through that?" I had no choice but to act like a righteous gentleman. But as soon as I closed my eyes and calmed myself, my heart began to beat wildly uncontrollably. The girl wore stockings for the first time. She wanted to force the man to hand in his homework. But the man was completely useless. He collapsed after only 2.5 minutes. She pointed at my shoulder. "Your body is very weak. His meridians are blocked and congested. He looks tall and strong, but his muscles are loose, and his internal organs are in disarray." She frowned. "Are you the one with some problems?" As expected of an empress who has lived for 10,000 years. It's not like I'm pathetically unable to return home and can only. An ancient maiden tricked into having 5 children. Although I feel a little ashamed. What she said isn't wrong. Years of late nights and overtime have left me with a host of problems. But Xiao Wuji's treatment of my meridians is similar to massage and acupressure, only deeper and more painful. Men can do anything, anywhere, except, just not there. I let my words run away with me. I usually don't even get hand cramps. Want to try? But she didn't hit me. She just glanced at me with disdain. I wanted to disappear into a crack in the floor. "I'm starting to exercise today. This is the most serious vow I've ever made in my life." To make amends, I took her to a restaurant. Looking at the braised pork on the table, Chichio's mood also improved quite a bit. She chewed slowly. "You eat so irregularly. You only had dinner in the wee hours the other day. That's bad for your stomach and liver. Just exercising isn't enough. You should also pay attention to your diet and rest." "But aren't you cultivators supposed to not eat or sleep?" "How is that possible? Isn't cultivation precisely so that we can do things that ordinary people can't?" "Wow, that makes sense. Should I call you master then?" Xiao Wuji smiled ambiguously. "So, should I call you Father God? Isn't this fine? Let's just call each other by our names." But my head just took a hard knock. Xiao Wuji retrieved her high heels from under the table. "Based on my life experience, cooking at home is obviously cheaper and cleaner than eating out. You're not rich, why do you eat out every day?" "I'm just too full to care. Because I'm lazy." But then I suddenly turned my head. "By the way, can you cook? Although I haven't written about your life before your training, based on my character setting of you, you should be able to manage both social situations and household chores. So, can you?" But she curled her lip. "So what if I can? Why should I cook for you?" Unexpectedly, I killed her instantly in the next moment. "Because this is the rent." Xiao Wuji gritted her teeth angrily. Looking at his posture, he seemed eager to swallow me whole. "Buy me some groceries, rice, oil, salt, and soy sauce. We don't need firewood these days. We have a gas stove. I'll check out rice and seasonings at the supermarket later. I also need to buy socks." "Buy. We'll buy 100 pairs." We arrived at the clothing store in the blink of an eye. Chicho saw the man furtively talking to the shop assistant. It seemed he was about to buy some indescribable underwear again. Suddenly, she saw some different clothes. Why are the boys' and girls' clothes exactly the same? She gave me a questioning look, but I didn't explain. Instead, I suggested we could get a matching set, so she could wear matching pajamas with me. Aren't the uniforms in your sect also the same? We share the same bed and live together, it's only natural. It sounds reasonable. But Xiao Wuji feels something is wrong. Are you deceiving an old woman of 10,000 years? But she really can't find a reason to refuse. In this world, she can only let it be. The man before me bullied, but the next moment, she showed a look of disgust. What kind of childish big-headed doll print is this? I, with my majesty and solemnity, who commands the heavens and earth, how could I wear such childish patterns? Unfortunately, I didn't give her a chance to retort. I immediately paid the bill and left. This also made Xiao Wuji silently vow in his heart. I must start making money. Is it normal for men and women to cook together at home? This ancient girl would tell herself every day. We are innocent. But I always have some doubts about their relationship. Early that morning, Chocho bought back a lot of groceries. It wasn't that she thought the restaurants in this world weren't delicious, but she felt that Chugo might not be that financially well off. Her presence had instead become a burden on his life. After all, besides her strength, she couldn't do anything else. But I was leaning against the wall, gasping for breath. Long-term cramped living left me, completely winded just carrying a few bags of seasoning. In contrast, Xiao Wuji was striding along easily, carrying 2 large bags of rice. She suddenly felt energetic. Did she have the strength, or rather, the ability to fight or make money? You can make money, maybe even become a big shot, but you need an identity. Unless you leave the country and go to a war-torn area. That's a bit difficult right now. And unnecessary. Watch her walk into the kitchen carrying groceries. But a pang of guilt shot through me. I almost said, don't work, I'll support you. But then I thought about the high-minded words I'd already spoken a few days ago, and I couldn't take them back. Meanwhile, Xiao Wuji silently cleaned up the kitchen. She wasn't willing to be dependent on others. I was meant to break free from the Creator God's predestination. But cooking is labor. It just so happens that Ku Xian can offset Chu Ji's rent. But she had just lifted the pot lid, and it became both infuriating and hilarious. The kitchen was practically a dog's den. It hasn't been cleaned for at least 2.5 years. But when she turned around, she found Chugu fleeing at the speed of light. But a little sly fox-like smile appeared in her eyes. This Creator God is so adorably naive. She's a cultivator herself. Cleaning is just a minor spell. While outside, I was calling for a gas delivery. The sparkling clean kitchen made me pause slightly. She was busy separating the seasonings and putting them into containers. I just hate that I'm a struggling writer with such poor skills. It's like a small stone dropped into a still lake, creating ripples. Then Xiao Wuji turned around. Who are you talking to? I've had someone deliver liquefied gas. Then why did you stop mid-sentence? Because I was looking at you. Her face immediately showed a look like she wanted to hit someone. I immediately ran away. Then I sat on the sofa and started reading the comments section. Even though I'm a harem novel writer, after she forced me to change the plot last time, my comments section was filled with a bunch of pure love warriors. Chicho curiously poked her head out. I don't understand your world. Why are you arguing over someone else's writing? Are their fates also arranged, like mine? Just as you argue over differing interpretations. Because everyone has their own ideas. Chicho found it hard to understand. She only felt that the people in this world were so idle. But when she saw that it was because I had rewritten the Xiao Wuji poisoning plot, which triggered the argument, she felt a little guilty. She seemed to have caused Chugo a lot of trouble, but I only pointed to the bookcase. The history book you wanted a couple of days ago has arrived. This is what you should read. She glanced at the cover. 5,000 years of Chinese history. Your civilization is so young. Not even as old as me. Okay, I know you're an old lady. Then I got hit right after I said that. I had to hold my red and swollen hand and explain to her the origins of civilization. But she pouted arrogantly. I want to read. The world seemed to quiet down at that moment. I, a lifelong singleton, had never experienced this feeling before. I was typing. You were reading. This scene was idyllic. But the next moment, the atmosphere was ruined. The knock on the door interrupted. Meanwhile, in another city, a man in haute couture silently closed his eyes. My good brother, I can only help you this far. I never expected the cold and ruthless empress, a mass murderer. But in front of Chu Gu, she transforms into a virtuous wife and mother. She's even a great cook. But seeing the dishes she made, the men were surprised and widened their eyes. That day, Chocho was quietly reading by the window, and I was typing beside her. What a picturesque scene. But this endless autumn hides many thoughts. He's working now, while I'm doing nothing. Shouldn't I refill his water and tea, so he can write in peace? That would be reasonable. But the next moment, she sensed something was wrong. What was that sound? I'm not his maid. But why do I always feel the urge to take care of him? Is that guy secretly patching up his persona again? But I've never patched anything. Because in the original setting, when she sheds her military attire and is at home, Chiu Wuji is the protagonist's gentle wife. But now I've made a change. Since I severed the red thread between Chu Tiangu and her, the protagonist has embarked on a solitary path of cultivation. He's become a lonely cultivator. The sudden change in style made me anxious about the novel's readership, but this time, I still firmly pressed the publish button. Unexpectedly, the comments section became lively as soon as I published it. I thought at least half of my fans would leave, North Meow Man. It turned out to be only about a tenth less. And at that moment, a fragrant smell wafted into my nostrils. Chiu Wuji was no longer on the sofa. The sound of stir-frying came from the kitchen. But the next moment I was stunned. Chiu Wuji was standing there, continuing to read. The wok in front of me was automatically stir-frying. There was also a cutting board next to it. Putting the cleaver in the automatic vegetable cutter, she noticed my gaze. What? Never seen magical cooking before? I really haven't. I was both amused and exasperated. Why not just make it thoroughly cooked? But she only lightly waved her finger, and the food in the pot automatically arranged itself neatly on the plate. After all, it's for you to eat. It's better to be meticulous with this. It's just simple braised pork with cabbage, but it almost made me swallow my tongue. Using immortal techniques of fire and material control to make mundane food, compared to restaurants outside, it instantly became pig slop. Seeing me gobble it down, she also showed a happy smile. But at this moment, I started worrying about her identity. I don't want to be investigated 3 generations back, but I want to get this ancient girl an ID card. To do that, I have to leave a trace in this city. It's like a completely unknown face suddenly appearing in her sect, claiming to be a disciple. No one would believe it, but Chiu wasn't worried. Don't you have me by your side? Besides, I can still pay rent by cooking. So, how much of the book have you read? Are there any parts you find difficult to understand and need me to explain? She shook her head. Although the world I'm asking about is similar to what's in history books, I always feel that your world should originally have had spiritual energy. Many books have this kind of setting. For example, after the dragon veins are severed, the spiritual energy dissipates. But this is the real world. But she hesitated for a moment. This world still has relatively thin spiritual energy. Then her expression turned serious. I feel that the spiritual energy I sense this time is slightly more concentrated than last time. My heart skipped a beat. Spiritual energy revival. Is this why she ran out of the book? But I still have a bad feeling about this. The first time a man lies to a girl is to prove he can last 2.5 minutes. The girl responded with a look of disdain, because the man couldn't even last himself, not to mention any kissing, hugging, or lifting high. It turns out that after I learned about the spiritual energy revival, I started preparing for cultivation. But my physique is really too poor. After just 10 seconds, I'm completely exhausted, and my long-term seclusion has also left my network of contacts completely depleted. Police officers like Lin Wuyang should socialize more. I should probably go to that gathering I wanted to skip, although I'm a social recluse and not good at socializing. Watching Chiu Wuji silently cleaning up the dishes and washing them, a ripple formed in my heart. The Empress, admired by all, is here, like a little wife, cooking and washing dishes for me. For this moment, making some changes is nothing, but I just decided to exercise. Less than 200 meters and I'm already exhausted. I told Chiu I couldn't go on and we'd fight again tomorrow. She instantly transformed into a fitness coach. Faster. There are still 50 laps left. You can't give up now, can you? Keep going. Why do you only have one pull-up? There's no upward movement. Then I lay down. But no matter how she looked at it, she thought the posture was strange. What kind of sleazy posture is this? It's called a push-up. The old lady wouldn't understand. This world is so strange. It's clearly muscle training. But no matter how I look at it, the pose looks like and I collapsed after only 3 minutes. Chiu Wuji's eyes turned strange again. I thought you were a seasoned flirt. Turns out you're just trash. I was deeply disheartened, but still stubbornly asked her if she wanted to take a shower. I see you haven't even achieved fasting cultivation yet. You're probably far from being unstained by worldly desires. But Chiu shook her head. I know self-discipline. Should I use it on you too? I just feel something's wrong. So I turned and went into the bathroom. Soon, the sound of water came from inside. Chiu Wuji placed the book on his knees. His gaze wandered. Living together is just trouble. Just a door away, a man is stark naked, showering inside. The feeling. Forget it, I didn't see anything anyway. But then again, although her original body is long gone, she still occasionally has the urge to take a bath. Chiu angrily gritted her teeth. Dan Lecher. He just wants to experience eavesdropping through the door. It feels like a woman is taking a bath. I'll just not bathe, I dare you. She angrily left her seat and returned to the bedroom. But as soon as she opened the door, she froze in place. The bed frame, which had been without bedding, was neatly made, by someone unknown. It even faintly emitted a pleasant fragrance. How much he longed for someone to live with him. But when Chiu Wuji saw the pig-shaped pillow on the bed, a trace of warmth appeared in his heart. This fool. Bebe's mouth, but I really don't need to sleep. So ancient people also bathed every day. This ancient girl clearly looks reluctant. Yet she sneaked into the bathroom in the dead of night, and she was caught by a man. She blushed. You pervert. What are you looking at? I watched Chiyo go into the room in a huff, but I was restless and couldn't sleep, my mind racing. I wondered if Chiyo Wuji knew how to use the air conditioner. It seemed like it didn't matter if she didn't. She usually wears her thick robes even when going out. She's definitely impervious to heat and cold. I exercised so much today, but I don't feel sleepy at all. The water-filled pig pillow I prepared for her. Will she like it? Forget it, I'll stop thinking about it. I suddenly feel the urge to urinate. I was getting ready to get up and go to the bathroom, but as soon as I opened the door, I saw Chiyo Wuji sneaking out of the bathroom. I froze on the spot. Her hair was wet, and smelled faintly of shampoo, still warm from the shower. Her whole being was like a ripe flower, so delicate and alluring. As if sensing my strange gaze, a blush quickly rose on her cheeks. Being caught while secretly showering was bad enough, especially since I was still wearing couple's pajamas with Chugo. I noticed this too. The doll on Chiyo's clothes and I are smiling at each other, incredibly cute. Time stood still, quiet for several seconds. Just as Chiyo was about to find a reason to start yelling, I suddenly smiled faintly. Good night, get some rest. The words she wanted to say died in her throat. She turned and watched him go into the bathroom. That idiot. He really doesn't understand girls at all. The next morning, I taught my sister how to use the air conditioner. You have a remote control in your room. It's just like the TV remote. If you feel hot, you can turn it on. You don't need to sneak off to take a shower. But she looked distracted. She didn't even dare to look at me, only because I took off my shirt and was about to exercise. But before I even started, my whole body ached. My legs wouldn't even move. I tentatively asked, can we skip it today? But she just glanced at me. So this is why your running treasure became a storage treasure? You scoundrel. Your muscles are so loose and floppy, like a skinny dog. It's awful. I don't know where she learned that word. I was just about to retort, but she poked my shoulder. That's what happens when you suddenly exercise after a long time of inactivity. Who told you to take a bath right after your workout yesterday? So, is there still hope for me? Of course there is a way. I'll help you activate your blood flow, and that's it. Under my magic, any aches and pains will disappear. But then she suddenly remembered something. Bei Hui Miao's face changed instantly. She gnashed her teeth, wishing she could bite me to pieces. Explain yourself to me first. Why can my immortal arts affect things remotely? But healing doesn't work. Ah, crap, does this even need explaining? Healing is obviously better done up close. An ancient girl wants to heal a man, but the man takes off his shirt the next second. Because in costume dramas, treating injuries always requires skin-to-skin contact. I thought my happy life was about to begin, but I was given a bone-setting massage by the girl instead. You pervert. Think again. It turns out that after I made up my mind to start exercising, I gave out after only 2.5 minutes. Seeing the lustful look in her eyes, I hastily explained that it wasn't a matter of self-packaging. Long-term blocked meridians have left me so weak that even a light touch weakens me greatly. I wanted Chiyo to help me regulate my energy, but her face darkened. Why can my immortal arts work remotely for everything else? I just can't heal your wounds. Does that need explaining? Haven't you seen on TV? When healing men, they always do it through their clothes. To heal a woman, does it absolutely require skin contact? It's the same with our writing. Other things can be shown remotely. It's a special ability of the immortals. Only healing doesn't work. The more intimate, the better. Otherwise, how can we keep the audience watching? Chiyo pouted. Looking at your behavior, you're clearly no good. Go get me a patch. Yes, I know this can be changed, but I will still be immersed in fantasy. If it's to be changed, it will be later. In other words, for me to heal now, I must touch you. It seems so. Unexpectedly, Chiyo stood up directly. Then go heal yourself. Let yourself suffer. But I've housed her. My cultivation is also to figure out sooner. The secret of your time travel. It's not just about healing injuries, it's about unraveling the mysteries. The next second, she kicked out. Trying to trick me. Get lost. It's not so easy to trick an old lady like me, after all. After all, she's not like that poor girl next door who can't go home, and who was tricked into having 5 children in ancient times. At this moment, Chiyo noticed the unwashed couple's pajamas. She pursed her lips again. With a reach, she changed the doll face on her chest to a crying face. After doing this, she let out a childlike giggle. Much better now. She was just about to prepare some breakfast for the man. Watching the man's efforts, she was slightly stunned. Should I be nicer to this guy? Otherwise, it seems I'll miss a lot of beautiful scenery. But as a cultivator, she was naturally calm and could endure loneliness well. She never had an overly eager desire. The thought of going out to learn more. But this guy seems more concerned about it. I wonder if he feels they're getting to know each other. Too slowly, always confined to this one room. But she herself seems unsure what Chugo actually likes. However, she has a long lifespan. It's definitely not too late to get to know him slowly. Maybe in 10 years, seeing a white-haired Chugu will be interesting in its own way. But it wouldn't be good if he died of old age. She suddenly became flustered and upset. She was suddenly overwhelmed by anxiety. What's with this inexplicable feeling of caring about someone so much? But the next moment, she elbowed me in the chest. Don't even think about slacking off, you little rascal. Get up and continue. I completely lost it. Sister, I really can't do it anymore. But she showed no mercy whatsoever. If you dare to slow down, you'll be doing 100 more today. But I didn't notice her turning her head away. We can't let this kid die so easily. At least he should keep me company a little longer. Since I picked up a girl from ancient times at my doorstep, Chugu feels more and more like an NPC, helping the protagonist integrate into modern society. This afternoon I took out a phone and handed it to her. She asked hesitantly, "Is this phone very expensive?" "But this is just a bonus phone. I got it for free with a top-up. I'll buy you a used laptop after you get used to this. With these two things, you can understand the world faster." The girl finally took the phone. I took a closer look. Finally, she shyly thanked me, but she was still a little worried. "You bought me all these things. Won't your newly arrived manuscript fee be insufficient?" But I just smiled gently. "Isn't this considered a loan from you? Are you deliberately trying to make me owe you more, so that I'll have no choice but to repay you with myself later?" "Ah, how did you know?" But her face instantly fell. "Do you know what the simplest way to repay a favor is?" Then she gestured to her neck with her hand. "You're dead. You don't need to report it then." But the man in front of her not only wasn't scared, instead covered his mouth. Bebe Meow Comics. "That's not my Chio-Wuji." Chio-Wuji opened her mouth to retort, but her heart felt like a small stone had settled. She deliberately put on a look of disdain. "Why do I have to be your Chio-Wuji?" I didn't respond. I just silently told her, "Give me your hand." Before she could react, I grabbed her slender little hand. Instinctively, she tried to pull away, but looking at the man before her, her body suddenly became uncontrollable. "You. What? What are you doing?" But I only casually took out a pen, and wrote a few numbers in her palm. "Remember them. This is your phone number." A blush quickly rose on her cheeks, but glancing down at the crooked numbers in her palm, she felt herself growing further from this world. Yet her contacts only held his name. Even the numbers at the end of her own phone number, they are all marks of his identity. Although he isn't wealthy, he has always held firm to his determination to help me. And that line, "That's my Chio-Wuji." Chio doesn't understand this kind of feeling in Zibao's heart. What's going on with this feeling? Clearly, emotions are a major taboo for cultivators. But every time I see Chu-Ji's aching hands and feet, still busy working, I always want to do something for him. If Zibao suddenly leaves without a word one day, wouldn't that be a little bad? 'Cause Zibao came into this world knowing nothing. I should just make him some delicious food instead. Thinking this, she was about to go out to buy groceries. But I stopped her. We modern people basically don't use cash. That is, what you usually call pocket money or banknotes. This thing is called a satellite. We usually use it to buy things. But you have to give yourself an ID first. What's an ID? It's like how your ancestors had names like Li-Bai. But she pondered it for a long time. I can't think of anything. ID, in the end, unknowingly, became "Water follows the sky, autumn boundless." The water is her. The sky probably refers to Chu-Chinga. So the water follows the sky. Why is my head full of this man I've only known for 2.5 days? She slowly stood up. "Where do they sell cookbooks? Take me to find some." But I pointed to her phone instead. Now we have cell phones and computers. To find out which dish to make, you can simply search online. Looking at her doubtful expression, I said there are many more food-related live streams and videos. Once you get used to them, you'll be a modern person. But she leaned close to my ear and asked me to teach her. Meanwhile, in the residential area, a figure was staring intently at my windowsill. Bye-bye Meow Comic. Then, it shockingly merged with the wall. This ancient girl who came out of the book is now very panicked. She always felt that her relationship with Chu-Gu wasn't so clear-cut. Even her colleagues started to suspect their relationship. It's not like she's his wife. Why does she always have to do these chores for him? But seeing the man eat so heartily, her heart softened again. As long as he likes it, just consider it as paying back his rent. At this moment, I'm typing furiously. Because of the girl's forceful changes earlier, there isn't much plot left related to the protagonist, Chu-Chinga. But I've described Chio-Wuji with increasing detail. It's all because the protagonist I once imagined in my head, my two-dimensional wife, is now in my living room, doing my laundry and cooking for me. Just then, a message flashed, and I was scared into a cold sweat, because it was a message from my editor. We decided to block this kind of situation. Usually new books are like this. The notification before being forcibly taken off the shelves. But after clicking, I found out that I had actually received the platform's promotion. Even after I let loose, Bebe, the usually aloof editorial team actually started chasing updates of my work. Even my writer roommate, who I hadn't heard from in months, suddenly contacted me. I was just about to catch up with him, but he just sent me an emoji. "You're busy dating, aren't you?" I saw you shopping with a beautiful woman. You have to introduce her to us sometime. Could this kid be working nearby? I was just about to start a conversation with Dad, but he warned me to watch out for thieves in the neighborhood. Before I could ask more, I heard a familiar voice from behind me. Dinner's ready. A few simple words shattered all my thoughts. All my thoughts were shattered to pieces. What's wrong? You look so happy. She made a gesture as if to hit me, but I burst out laughing. My book has been promoted by the platform. You can roughly understand it as me also. Being rewarded by the sect to enter the scripture pavilion. It means the protagonist's treatment is coming your way. I blinked, looking at her without speaking. She was happy for me, but then she thought again. Wasn't she herself about to become Chu Ji's possession? That scoundrel had been plotting against me from the very beginning. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, I quickly lowered my head and ate. But in my haste, I blurted out, "Honey, dinner was delicious today." I watched her put down her chopsticks. It seemed like things had cooled down, but she pretended not to hear me. I will use the midday sun's energy to cultivate for a while. Don't disturb me unless it's important. But when she returned to her room, her mind started racing. What's going on with this guy? Is he trying to trick me into becoming his little wife? No way. And as she was lost in thought, a figure gradually appeared behind her. A thin man in black appeared in the doorway. He carried a sword in his hand, but after he looked around, his gaze could no longer be moved from the stunning beauty before him. Although I found the wrong person, this is undoubtedly a pleasant surprise. Just as the pervert reached out, the beauty on the bed coldly opened her eyes. Who would have thought that the gentle and lovely ancient girl in front of me would show no mercy to strangers? I beat the pervert to a pulp in less than 2.5 minutes. Xiao Wuji finished making my lunch that day. I was just about to take advantage of the midday yang energy to cultivate for a while, when a pervert appeared behind her. He wanted to do something to the girl, but the girl closed her eyes. The pervert attacked, because such a petty thief is insignificant to her. At that moment, I also swung my broom. "Are you alright?" But she smiled at me. "Who are you asking?" Then I realized, I should be careful around Xiao Wuji. My life is at stake. It should be the thief who's safe. Even if she's been downgraded, she's still a cultivator. A split soul of a top-tier powerhouse, at that. But Qiuqiu's feet felt a little doubtful. This guy just barged in. How did you sense that? I said I'm a light sleeper, but she didn't believe me at all. She was clearly paying attention to the next room and still lied. But looking at the man, a wave of warmth washed over her. A weakling writer. Even grabbed a broom and rushed in first. She poked my arm. "So weak, and yet you tried to catch a thief. Look, he has a dagger. Don't you value your life?" At this time, the petty thief on the ground also woke up from his faint. But the next second, he was ready to cry. This terrifying woman was seriously asking me, "By the way, how do you deal with thieves here? Can you kill them yourselves, or do you need to hand them over to the officials? This is the 21st century. Whoa. There's no such thing as immediate execution on the spot. Besides, didn't ancient times also require a trial before execution?" But electric light once again coiled around Qiuqiu's palm. I see this guy's not willing to talk. Let's just search his soul first. The next second, the pervert suddenly knelt down on the ground. "Boss, spare me. I can speak for myself." Qiuqiu's eyes instantly turned cold. "Where did you learn your wall-passing technique?" But the man was completely dumbfounded. Why are you asking that? Shouldn't you be asking why I ran here?" He could see the killing intent in the woman's eyes. He stated that this ability to pass through walls was an innate talent he had awakened. And many people have it. A wave of panic washed over me. It seems the worst-case scenario I had predicted has arrived. But I've lived for almost 30 years. How come I didn't know anyone had awakened this ability? He said they each have their own circles. It's normal for ordinary people not to know. You have the ability to walk through walls, yet you only act as a thief. That's a pretty high-end circle, huh? What's your real purpose? Seeing that he didn't answer, Qiuqiu and I exchanged a glance. A terrifying light flickered at her fingertips. The man quickly begged for mercy. He said he was only looking for someone. He was lying. Beat him. Xiao Wuji didn't immediately understand why he was judged to be lying, but since Chu Gu said so, she instinctively slapped him. Still daring to be stubborn at death's door. The interrogation scene was like hell, but I found it quite satisfying to watch. But I was sweating bullets inside. This motherly Tyrannosaurus is so violent. I'm lucky I wasn't beaten to death earlier. Could it be that she didn't want to hit me? An ancient girl's first earnings were to pay rent for her man. I only earn 3,000 yuan a month writing books. But faced with this huge sum, I'm worried. Because this cash is from Qiuqiu's robbery. Although in her world, it's nothing serious. Especially since the black-clothed thief broke in first. But real-world police aren't so easily fooled. That day, Xiao Wuji beat the little thief half to death. The scoundrel not only wanted to murder and rob, but also dared to covet this sect leader's beauty. Under Qiuqiu's harsh interrogation, the man had no choice but to tell the truth. He intended to follow Yue Ying, but accidentally stumbled into Qiuqiu's room, and I instantly realized that it was the streamer girl from next door. I never expected that the shy and socially anxious homebody was actually an underground fighter. I even committed a taboo by killing too many people. My head is buzzing. There really are black market fighters these days. And she's a beautiful girl. She even lives next door. I even fantasized about her job with my roommate before. If they found out, I'd be beaten to a pulp. But Chocho poked her head over. What are you thinking about? Luckily, I reacted in time. I can't let the tigress find out about this. I'm wondering if you can erase this guy's memory. Sean Meow Comics. Meow Comics. Hand him over to the police. She hesitated for a moment. Shouldn't we check out their circle? Seeing my retreat without a response, she turned around again. Okay, I'll listen to you, but I started to think. She probably wanted to actively get involved in that circle, and it wouldn't be difficult to solve her identity issues in the underworld. In any case, it's far more meaningful than her staying home and dealing with mundane things like cooking and cleaning with me. But I don't know why, I felt a strange emotion. I don't want to disrupt this life. But the next moment, the little thief got another slap from Chocho. I've been trapped by mundane things for so long. I've been restraining myself from robbing, and yet someone is actually sending it to me. Hand over all your valuables. Looking at the looted soft rain sword, she couldn't help but feel curious. So these are the banknotes of your world. She wore a smug expression. That'll work. It's even faster than writing books. This way I can pay you back. I said I could make a lot of money. Then let's go. I'll go take care of him. But I was sweating bullets. Why are you so skilled at this kind of thing? But luckily, this thief met his match in Chocho. Ordinary people would be in big trouble if they encountered him. It's best to leave this scoundrel to the police. On the way home, she suddenly turned around. Why are you so downcast? Is it because I took his belongings? I shook my head. It's because I'm worried about you. Teaching a small-time thief a lesson is actually quite satisfying. But there are a lot of rules in our world. Your magic hasn't fully recovered yet. What if someone retaliates? I don't want to lose you. Her eyelids drooped. She couldn't speak for a long time. Why does this guy care so much about me? Is he trying to trick me into becoming his little wife? But I only sighed silently. After all, I'm just an ordinary person, who's lived an ordinary life for over 20 years. I wish I could protect you like a hero. But I can't. Shio pouted her lips in dissatisfaction. You even tricked the #1 cultivator into your home to cook for you. He still says Zi Bao is just an ordinary person. You're right. But it's not my fault that you ran out of the book. Yet she suddenly looked angry. I won't allow my partner to call themselves a waste. But the atmosphere suddenly froze a moment later. Chicho then realized she had spoken wrongly. Damn it, what am I saying? Fortunately, the sound of sirens in the distance interrupted their thoughts. But I saw a familiar figure in the crowd. Lin Wuyang, my college roommate. How could he be here? This guy majored in Chinese language and literature. Even if the police were responding, it wouldn't be his turn, a mere office worker. Why would he appear at the crime scene? I didn't expect him to notice me in the crowd. While Chiu Wuji was stunned, I stepped forward. He didn't even ask me about the important matter. Is that your girlfriend next to you? I was just about to explain. But then I thought mentioning his police identity might be troublesome. So I just nodded in agreement. But he seemed preoccupied, just telling me to be careful lately. These past few days haven't been peaceful. Thieves and robbers are everywhere. I watched them leave. But when I came to my senses, Chi Wuji was gone. Just as I was wondering. But then I suddenly heard her voice behind me. I just used an invisibility spell. I heard your whole conversation. He just asked you if I was your girlfriend. Why didn't you deny it? I was a little afraid she would get angry, so I quickly explained. I'm also afraid the police will investigate. Less is more. After all, I have no abilities at all. But she approached me. Have you ever considered that you might have unknowingly awakened your abilities? It's just that I don't know it yet. I froze instantly. Could it be that imagination is materialized? Like you're someone I imagined. But she bit her lower lip lightly. She walked with her head down and didn't answer. It feels like we're drifting further and further apart. Maybe I should work hard on my skills too. Maybe I'm a prodigy like you. Wait, why aren't you saying anything? A girl from ancient times secretly opens her boyfriend's computer. She originally wanted to look up how to cook, but unexpectedly found a 1000-degree Jiba post. But she exploded in anger in a second. It turned out that it was all Chuj's hundreds of gigabytes of study materials. There were even videos of people in strange attire doing strange things. Chicho, however, became curious. After making sure no one was around, she secretly peeked at Chuj's videos again. Right after the neighborhood police left, Chicho quickened her pace towards home, because she sensed an energy fluctuation, coming from the cold neighbor's apartment across the hall. She's being targeted now. Should she be forced to leave? But I feel a little bad about it. She used to be a game streamer, but for some reason, she flopped. If you directly pressure her, wouldn't you be revealing yourself? Chocho pondered for a moment without speaking. I feel there's some truth to what he said, but look at his reaction. Does anyone in this world even care about their neighbors' lives? Although I don't understand what a otaku girl is. Judging from Chu Ji's description, the other person should be a pretty girl. For some reason, a wave of disappointment washed over her. I had just said I was going to start writing, but she grabbed my sleeve. I turned around, and saw her cheeks flushed. Could you teach me some of your local recipes? This was the first time Chocho said this to me. Despite my shock, I still opened my computer. Let me teach you how to use a Gandu first. In the future, you can just search for any unfamiliar terms. Chocho's expression turned melancholic. Why didn't you tell me about this sooner? I thought your computer was just for writing. I'll continue the demonstration for her. I'll input how to make egg fried rice. Videos will pop up here. But don't believe everything you see here. Information from different people online is not authoritative and is for reference only. Unknowingly, I grew closer and closer to her. I could even smell her faint perfume. But Chicho pushed me away. Then I understand. Go ahead and do your own thing. Watching her so engrossed. But I can't help but waver. Her posture just now clearly presented an opportunity. Like, grabbing her little hand to move the mouse, for example. She's focused on learning, so she probably wouldn't notice. Watching the man get up and leave. Chicho's heart was extremely complex. Why wasn't he like before? Everyone said he had ulterior motives. But why did she actually quite like having him around? She didn't immediately start researching recipes. Instead, I'll slowly transfer the money. Can it leave no trace? But she looked at the pop-up messages she couldn't understand. However, she soon discovered that this thing called a computer was really useful. Even the world Chu-gu wrote about her could be found on the web. Looking at the dagger left by the petty thief last night, she searched again for the information she'd heard from the accomplice about the miracle nightclub. But the next moment, she widened her eyes in surprise. Strange things appeared on her screen. How could anyone still like to wear such? The exposed clothes were hung up, and some slaves or something. It's truly the demon realm. But she still couldn't suppress her curiosity. After confirming Chu Rome wasn't nearby, she secretly opened the computer. The scene before her eyes made her go black. How do people in this world live so openly? Does Chu-gu watch this kind of learning material every day? The girl found a hidden folder on her boyfriend's computer. But after an afternoon of appreciating and learning, the girl became somewhat irritable and angry, even resorting to violence against the man. It turned out I had only written 2.5 chapters, but it was already dark. Before I even ate dinner, I'm going to loosen up my muscles. But as soon as I opened the door, I saw Cho Wuji holding a laptop, with a mischievous smile on his face. He seemed to have heard the noise outside. Cho hurriedly closed the laptop, a little flustered. I lost track of time. It's time to cook. I never thought our autumn sect master would get so engrossed in the internet that she couldn't pull herself away. But she still stubbornly denies it. No way. I just learned a few more dishes. But I didn't expose her. Instead, I fell face first to the ground. Chicho looked a little confused. It's only been a short while. Why are you exercising again? If another person with abilities comes looking for trouble, and you happen to be cultivating, how can I protect you? Chocho was momentarily stunned. She wanted to retort, but the words, "This old lady doesn't need your protection," wouldn't come out. But seeing the man's trembling appearance, she still felt a little pity. Bae pursed her lips, silent for a moment. Finally, she patted the sofa. "Don't struggle. Come and sit." "What are you saying?" But when I looked again, I saw her cheeks had turned crimson. "I'll treat you, to improve blood circulation." I sensed the atmosphere was a little awkward. She pouted her little mouth. "What kind of expression is that?" "I just wanted to speed up your cultivation progress. You're just a mortal. Don't overthink it. Then let me do some running exercises. I've been exhausted for 2 days." She secretly turned her head away. "That's because I want you to start from scratch and build a solid foundation. Things being too easy would be detrimental to your cultivation." But then I suddenly thought of something. Would this shorten the time you spend in this realm? Chicho's eyes suddenly became shifty. So he cared so much about me staying here. But she still managed a weak smile for me. No, but I didn't believe her lies at all. Forget it. Never mind. I'll just practice by myself. Unexpectedly, the next moment I was lifted up by a small hand. Chocho threw me onto the sofa. Then she got on top of me. Her fists rained down on my back. "You scoundrel, still pretending. You clearly wanted to, and still have the nerve to look so righteous. I don't want you to play the good guy. You say you're hurting." But for some reason, her fist went limp the moment it touched me. Instead, a pure stream of spiritual energy infused my body, almost sending me to heaven. Twilight descends. The room is dark. I feel a jade-like hand on my back. Silence speaks volumes. Meanwhile, at the city bureau, Lin Wuyang hands a printed document to the woman. "The materials you requested are basically complete. The electronic files have already been sent to your email." Kogu Ruoyan examined the electronic document. She smiled faintly. "Director Lin, there should still be omissions here. It's impossible for us to grasp everything in our investigations. Today, I unexpectedly captured a wall penetrator, but all I could get out of him was the identities and abilities of some of his accomplices. And new players could appear at any time." But Guru Oyan's expression turned serious. "I'm not referring to those." "So you mean?" The woman slowly leaning closer. Lin Wuyang could even smell her perfume. I'm talking about you, Section Chief Lin. Or should I call you, Truth Teller? To pay off the rent I owe. This girl from ancient times not only cooks for me every day, but even offered to give me a massage. But her touch has become heavy-handed. Not at all like the shy little girl she used to be. I haven't even had a chance to enjoy it. The weight pressing down on me vanished the next moment. Her personal belongings were still scattered on my back, but her faint scent was gone without a trace. I collapsed weakly. This time, Jojo had already stayed much longer than usual. She also lavishly used her magic to cleanse my bones. The remaining energy, naturally, couldn't be held. Meanwhile, Xiao Wuji on the other side, was alone in her bedroom, drinking tea. According to Chu Ji's writing, she should be standing by the window, gazing at the moon. But she had an amused expression. I won't. No urgent situation. It's just healing. It's already wrong that she would willingly touch Chu Ji's skin. Why would the head of a whole sect go there to cook for him? Knowing he harbors improper intentions, she still refrains from beating him up. Anyway, the money's returned now, so I feel relieved. Jojo thought this, but her expression unconsciously dimmed. This month will still pass, right? After all, computers are so fun. I wonder what that family is doing without me around. And they're probably involved in something incredible again. Could it be dangerous? And his neighbors are beautiful girls. Will this lecture take advantage of the situation? But she quickly sensed something was wrong. Could it be that? I'm jealous. She was so angry that she threw the teacup onto the table. How could I, this esteemed one, possibly be jealous of a mere mortal? This scoundrel must have added some new setting to me again. But after she cast a calming spell on herself, not only did her wise mode not activate, but that feeling of longing became even stronger. Actually, at this moment, she had already begun to think about how to escape the predetermined path. Changing her self-restrained nature was something she simply couldn't do. And if she changed major events, the world would self-correct. But when did she become so accustomed to this man she spent every day with? Thinking of this, she still smiled. Maybe I should try something special in Chugu. Something that wouldn't happen in the books. Let's start small. Encircle the cities from the countryside. At the same time, a wave of sadness washed over me. I don't know when Chucho will come next. Her power, left behind before she left, still remains within me, cleansing my meridians. It flows through my meridians. A very real sensation. But the good thing is, I can even cultivate the techniques I made up in my books. Xiao Wuji's library houses various immortal techniques. It was originally added for Chu Tianga's convenience. Now I'm getting the benefit. And abilities like wall walking. It's nothing compared to the grand avenue I envisioned. I just don't know if the spiritual energy in this reality is enough to support my cultivation. To what extent? A strange thought occurred to me. If I cultivate to the highest level, could I forcibly keep Jojo here? Memories of my time with her keep flashing through my mind. I seem to be getting more and more used to her presence, to the point where I somewhat regret selflessly helping her understand the world. What if she becomes familiar with this world, and then finds the spiritual energy here too thin? Might she then feel there's no need to stay here anymore? Looking at her pajamas hanging on the clothes rack, I was about to end my contemplation, but my stomach started to rumble. She's gone, and no one's going to cook for me anymore. The girl went out in the middle of the night, but it's just to catch up with my girlfriend, who isn't home, a shut-in. We're clearly neighbors, but the two of us seem unusually distant. If your girlfriend minds, I'll move out in a few days. It turns out Chocho helped me with my muscle knots, but she dissipated on my back due to energy depletion. I felt her faint fragrance lingering on my body. My heart felt a sense of loss. After typing a few chapters, I realized my stomach was rumbling. But today, there's no one to do my laundry or cook for me. Meanwhile, on the other side, Xiao Wuji gracefully poured tea. The Juke fire feather is in the hands of the Huzong sect of the demon cult. But upon hearing the sect master speak, the disciples below broke out in a cold sweat. The sect master's analysis was not without reason. He's known for his unrestrained and arrogant temperament. Sect master, what are your chances this time? Xiao Wuji simply smiled faintly. How would we know if we don't fight? The elder also wore a look of displeasure. How come sect master Qiu, usually so detached from worldly affairs? At this moment, she seems to be preparing for some grand undertaking. But Qiu doesn't actually feel that way. What she just said was entirely because of the plot written by that man. She will resonate with the Heavenly Tao Covenant and conclude a contract with Yen Gonlai. Afterward, she will achieve victory through an extremely arduous battle. By me, oh man. She'll definitely proceed in this direction. But can we adjust the method? Please trouble Elder Zhou these days to insert some spies for covert control, and secretly contact Yinchi Mountain. The boneless elder and Yen Qianlai have a blood feud over the death of their sons. But Elder Ku felt his eyelids twitching uncontrollably. Could this really be the aloof and proud Xiao Wuji? On the other side, I was about to go out for a workout, but I had only just opened the door, when I spotted my neighbor's daughter peeking at me. Her instinctive reaction was to retreat. Watching the man's receding figure, she still secretly followed him out. I just looked back, and saw the girl, head down and silent. I'm looking for a house. I'll be moving out in a few days. I'm sorry to have disturbed your lives. I still wanted to respond, but she just turned her head and ran away quickly. Am I that scary? I realized this girl had discovered something. It seems she knows very well what's going on underground. My identity as a fighter has been revealed. But it's alright. He's actually a reasonable person. Compared to that tyrannical mother who held a sword to my neck, this is nothing. Because I had Chocho's guidance, I woke up the next day feeling surprisingly energetic. I just opened the article's backend data, and was speechless with shock. In less than an hour, my favorites had skyrocketed. It seems the plot of changing Cho Wuji's fate has still gained the reader's approval. Could it be that the heroine's appearance brought good luck to my side? The following plot is even more special. I wonder if I should write myself into the book. At this time, Cho Wuji stood on the mountain peak, hands behind her back, gazing at the sky. Behind her, however, was a ferocious, burly man. Cho Wuji, have you gone mad? We cultivate precisely to transcend this world and shatter the heavens. You're telling me you want to communicate with the heavenly Tao and have it restrain us? But the woman before him remained unmoved. You will understand. Look at you, communicating for so long. Didn't even fart. Chocho didn't speak. She just glared fiercely at the demon lord. She turned around and continued to gaze at the sky. But in her heart, she secretly cursed him. Chugu, what the hell are you doing? Don't tell me you haven't written that part yet. Hurry up and write it, you idiot. I'm being laughed at. But right now, I'm frantically typing away at my computer. The space around me still isn't reacting at all. Could it be that I haven't written clearly enough? But as I pressed enter, my body felt a tremendous pull. A strange yet familiar world appeared before me, and that slightly lonely figure. And Chicho's face showed a surprised expression. Everyone present felt a vast pressure descended upon the soul sea. Bei Mao Man, deep within her soul, a resonance echoed. The bet between Cho Wuji and Yan Ganlai was made, but she didn't feel afraid. Instead, she felt a little happy. I can finally, meeting you again, child. The girl never imagined, after cultivating for tens of thousands of years, someone would disrupt her Tao heart with just a few words. She raised a fist the size of a sandbag at me. You like changing the plot, huh? Did you think I couldn't beat you? You're already beaten to a pulp. But the man continues to provoke me. You only came out because you're worried about me, right? Chicho proudly turned her head away. I don't care about you, you lecher. But before she could finish, she secretly turned to observe my reaction. She felt a little disappointed inside. Doesn't he like being with me? That day, after Chocho returned to her world, she wanted to set a time for a duel with Yan Ganlai. But the demon king before them didn't care. I can obliterate your sect with a flick of my finger. Why would I make any such ridiculous bet with you? Cho Wuji simply turned away. You will understand. Your so-called heavenly mandate descending. Are you kidding me? But he hadn't finished speaking. The sky suddenly changed. Cho Wuji felt the heavens watching him. But looking back, there was nothing. But the demon lord's laughter ceased abruptly. His eyes showed suspicion and uncertainty. They both simultaneously felt a vast and powerful pressure descend upon their souls. A strange resonance echoed deep within their souls. Cho Wuji and Yan Ganli's duel agreement. Established. Yan Ganli's expression was incredibly severe. This damn thing is actually real. But Cho Wuji didn't take the opportunity to mock him. It was because in her soul sea, she clearly saw Bei Miao Comics. Bei Miao Comics Chu Ji's smiling face appeared. She mischievously blinked at him. A little disappointment welled up inside her. But she also felt a little happy. I finally get to see you in this world. The demon lord's thoughts grew heavy. But he didn't dwell on it. The constraints are mutual. Since it's a duel, does that mean you, Cho Wuji, can be certain of victory? He let out a loud laugh. Then let it be the night of the 100 Ghosts, July 15th. I'll wait for you at Yungang. Cho Wuji watched Yan Ganli's back as he disappeared into the distance, engulfed in flames. He seemed unconcerned. But in his heart, he was already PLNing. There's no such thing as a July 15th, 100 Ghosts night parade in our world. Why are you adding arbitrary settings? You're adding arbitrary settings again. And I didn't care at all. I wrote it smoothly and casually showed off. Do you want to beat me up? Then I had no goal. Am I awesome, dude? Quickly call me dad. Cho Wuji gnashed her teeth. She really wanted to drag that man out and beat him up. But when she flew into the air, she found she couldn't find him at all. In this world, the laws of heaven can't be violated. She didn't know where I was at all. I was just secretly relieved that this she-devil finally calmed down. But the next moment I felt a chill down my spine. As soon as I turned around, I saw Cho Wuji with a dark expression. Did you think I couldn't reach you? You little brat, think you're getting smart, huh? You dare make me call you dad? You're exploiting a glitch. Why don't you need a cooldown period now? Chocho looks genuinely angry. How to pick up someone? You don't want me to be able to appear at any time, do you? Pick up someone. Of course I hope so. I coaxed and tricked her into it. But seeing her fists gradually clenching, sect leader Cho's trip, really did invigorate her spirits. I'll brew you some tea right away. Chicho just sat down with a straight face. Have you become so smug and foolish, acting like you've won? We've been apart for almost a week. Her clothes instantly changed back into her house clothes. Do you think I have nothing better to do? Why should I come just because you want me to? I'm very busy. I only came out this time to beat you up. I realized that the flow of time in the book's world is different from that of the real world. Seeing that I hadn't spoken for a long time, Jojo secretly started observing my reaction. She knows she doesn't want to leave him, but she's the head of a sect. How can she act coquettish with a man? I know you're busy. I'm just figuring out how to make you adapt to this world. Look at the following plot. Is there anything else wrong? Watching the man struggle to break free from the plot, a wave of warmth washed over Jojo's heart. Maybe he really is different from others. What are you giggling about? Nothing. It's a comic. Perhaps, for me. He is the father god. What does it feel like to hold hands with someone you like for the first time? The boy was getting ready to go out for dinner that day, but the girl behind him was a little angry. Why are you walking so fast? I'm not going to eat you. I suggested taking her to eat hot pot, but Chicho seemed reluctant, so I had to take her hand, but her face immediately turned red. He touched me like that, but why didn't I kick him away? Feeling the warmth in my palm. Maybe this isn't so bad. Apparently, after Chiu Wuji returned from the world in the book, she was confused about my ability to manipulate the plot, but I told her, I can only trigger the divine descent by writing a scene where she communicates with heaven. That's the only way to trigger it, and I can't do anything else besides that. Jojo gave a mocking expression. So your abilities aren't that great, huh? But I'm not surprised. This is all the world's self-correction. If I really were invincible from the start, wouldn't that old woman who's cultivated for thousands of years be jealous? Who are you calling an old woman? She clenched her fist, but she quickly turned her head away. You masochist. I refuse to satisfy you. She was silent for a while. Then she pouted and glared at me. Take your clothes off quickly. What are you going to do? My brain almost shut down. How could Chiu Wuji, usually so serious, say something like that? But looking at her expression, it wasn't a request, but an order. I had no choice but to obey and lift my shirt. Slender fingers touched my chest. Her tone, however, softened. Are you really working out properly? You're so young, and you already have so many health problems. I don't want to take care of you when you're old. If you really want to enter my world and do more, you need to have a certain level of cultivation. Chiu Wuji said this and then leaned over to look at the chapters one posted. But her complexion grew increasingly worse. And what's the meaning of the struggle for supremacy, you wrote? It's a plot-based deduction and alteration. The competition between the strongest will inevitably attract the attention of the world and have far-reaching implications. As the head of a sect, even in the past, you lacked this kind of business acumen, but with a great battle looming, he's certainly making preparations. Chiu Wuji pondered for a long time. I thought I had changed my way of doing things. So this was still your script. So I did this. Ultimately, it's because of your writing. Or is it just my own wishful thinking? Why can't it be that we're on the same wavelength? Chicho froze for a moment. She looked into my eyes. Then, she sadly looked away. Being on the same wavelength, that's probably not the case. You know me too well. No matter what I do, I'm bound by fate. This feeling is truly infuriating. But I interrupted her. Perhaps we're not on the same wavelength. But Chiu Wuji, how well do you know me? I can't answer that right away. She was a little annoyed. I'm going back to my room. Wait, I'm hungry. It's so late, why don't we go out to eat first? She turned her head with a hint of irony. I thought you were going to tell me to cook first. See? You really don't understand me. You're not my maid, you know. I just got back from a business trip and you want me to cook right away. What do you take me for? Chicho felt like something bumped her heart. Yes, in this world, only he is so kind to me. But I never understood his past profession. I also don't know what his hobbies are. Yet she deliberately kept a straight face. What are you looking at? Hurry up and leave. She and I just walked quietly along the road. We didn't speak for a long time. I was the first to start a conversation. Let's go buy you a few sets of clothes after dinner. Always wearing professional attire isn't really appropriate. But she glanced at me sideways. What kind do you want to buy? Cat ears or maid outfits? Wow, how did you know about these things? But Chocho didn't give me any face. I know now. Tap tap tap. What short skirts and black stockings? It's clearly some people's peculiar fetish. It's disgusting. That person even lied to me, saying these are normal. I'm protesting my innocence. Those stockings were clearly chosen by you yourself. Her face flushed slightly. Sect Master Chio is much more adorable like this. Shall we have hot pot together today? I don't feel like it in this heat. I instinctively took her hand. We have something called air conditioning. Any weather can be spring. Chio Wuji's body trembled slightly. I forgot when he first pulled me like this. What was the scene like back then? He's clearly just a lecherous scoundrel. But why do I feel a little reluctant to let him go? Is deliberately breaking free a bit too obvious? It must be. But being led by him like this, why do I feel such a sense of peace? It's clearly the dog days of summer. Yet, ancient girls wore long trousers. It turns out she'd already given up on the so-called long socks and short skirts. It was just some lecher's preference. But although she was covered up completely, I felt she was even more beautiful in the mirror. Even other guests nearby were raising their phones to take pictures. Today, I held Chiuchio's hand for the first time. To my surprise, she didn't resist at all. Instead, she held my hand even tighter. Why are you dodging? Can you come a little closer? But after we finished dinner, to Chiu Wuji, who didn't want to go out, she dragged me to a clothing store. She fiddled with the newly selected jeans. Do you think this outfit looks good on me? She asked. But my face twitched. It's so hot, why are you wearing that? Chiuchio turned her head with a displeased look on her face. It's none of your business. This lord is not afraid of a little cold or heat. I see others in simple white shirts and blue jeans, looking so pretty and simple. Anyway, my legs and feet are well wrapped up. I'm not as vulgar as you. I couldn't stop her. I could only watch her go into the changing room. But moments later, my eyes lit up. I don't know if it was her natural talent for dressing, or if she'd been looking at online pictures. She even put her hair up in a high ponytail. That kind of overwhelming sex appeal and vitality. Made by Mio Comics, truly captivating. Even the bystanders thought she was a celebrity on a trip. Bei Miao Comics. They all took out their phones to take pictures, but Chiuchio frowned. So all the cameras stopped working. Didn't we agree not to use magic on ordinary people? She was a little displeased. I only manipulated a simple current to cause a disruption. X didn't break anything of theirs. Actually, I think you understand me quite well. Knowing that I'll make up for it later, Chiuchio was silent for a while. She angrily cursed. Lecher. Can't I even say it myself? But the next moment, she sensed something was wrong, because the short-sleeved shirt in front of me is printed with the logo of the Miracle nightclub. Did I run into any trouble while I was gone these 2 days? Did the girl next door come looking for me? I recalled that somewhat timid girl. She said she was moving away. Chiu Wuji nodded slightly. She's quite sensible. What? If she doesn't take a stand, have you thought about how you'll deal with her? Are you jealous of her? But she only tugged at her collar. Her expression grew even more serious. She really hasn't offended me. But you said I'm capable of vying for the position of Grandmaster and dominating the world. Why should I care about such petty mercy? I've listened to you on many things before. It's because I think my judgment is more accurate than yours based on the evidence. It's not that I have to listen to you. This time, Chiu Wuji's attitude upon returning is significantly firmer. It's caused by the plot of the game I wrote, the Conquest storyline. But I didn't argue with her. She'll be fine once her mood improves. Just consider it a period. Meanwhile, in another world, midnight neon lights mixed with the roar of heavy metal. The smell of alcohol and perfume made everyone who came here dazed and intoxicated, in a state of blissful oblivion. But 10 floors underground, but a girl put on a mask. With the shouts of the audience outside, she slowly tightened her grip on the need's context, perhaps instrument or head. But she didn't care about this so-called glory at all, because this world isn't a place where every corner is bathed in sunlight. She wasn't fearless. She needed the money. She recalled her parents' early deaths, and her younger brother, gravely ill and lacking funds for treatment. She had to win, but her body was just recovering. She was knocked flying by a punch from the burly man in front of her. She struggled to her feet. Around her were the jeers of the gamblers. But this time she knew clearly that she couldn't win, because someone had paid more money for her to lose a fight. Yue Ying slightly raised her head. She looked towards the high platform to her side. There was a glass wall there. She couldn't clearly see the figure behind the glass wall, but she knew what he looked like. He was a man who appeared scholarly and slender. Cold eyes hid behind icy glasses. Ancient girls didn't have ID cards. Yet the police asked her to download an anti-fraud app, because the police thought the weakling man beside her didn't look like a good person at all, but lacking identification meant, it's so crowded in this city. After I bought Chiuchio's clothes, she started to become rebellious. Why do I always have to listen to you? Before, I just thought you understood the world better than I did. Not that I should just obey you. I had planned to leave work early, but I ended up accompanying her shopping. But she stopped in her tracks. Don't you have anything to do? Shouldn't you be writing or practicing your skills? I said I'm done writing for today. But she's throwing a tantrum. I'm not a child. Why do you have to follow me every time I go out? You don't have an ID card. It's very dangerous in this world. A hint of displeasure flashed across her face. Normally, no one checks IDs when you're just walking down the street. You can't fool me, you scoundrel. But the next moment, a police officer's voice came from beside her. Show me your ID for inspection. It turns out there are many holiday tourists. The police have also increased patrols in the business district. I'm a little smug. See? I wasn't lying to you at all. But Chiu Wuji just pouted in a huff. It's no big deal. I won't take the subway. I'll go back by myself. Bebe High Comics. Seeing her still insist, I could only sigh softly. Come to think of it, I do have some articles I haven't written. Remember to go back early. It's so late, it's not safe for a girl to be out alone. Although that's what I said, deep down I know better. In this world, besides nuclear weapons, there's nothing that could hurt her. But Chiuchio had already seen through my thoughts, and played along again. Knowing I'd fall for it, right? She knows everything. Such a sly one. I really wanted to know more about him. But Chiu still wanted to be independent. After all, she always felt a little guilty for constantly troubling Chu. He's not my boyfriend, anyway. But just as she waved to hail a taxi, she started to worry again. A taxi went by, then a second one, a third, but no one would pick her up. She became a little angry. Why wouldn't even the empty cab stop? That's not how it's shown in TV dramas. But she didn't notice the roadside at all. A big "no parking" sign stood there. You can't park here. A taxi swerved in front of the girl. Then Chu Ji's somewhat annoying expression appeared. Go forward a bit and turn right. You can park there. What should I do if I really want to blow up this car? But she still couldn't bring herself to do it. She could only chase after it and run. And after she got in the car, she fell silent. I sensed the explosive atmosphere around her. I knew that if I dared to make a joke, this car would be truly gone. Luckily, after we left the main road, the driver broke the silence. He was thinking, young people these days really know how to have fun. Where are you two headed? Chiu finally spoke. Shinji nightclub. But I felt a little startled. How did she know about this place? Did that wall-walking person still have their soul searched by her? I noticed her gaze. Chiu still had a stern face. I'm just going to take a look, I won't cause any trouble. But my expected rebuttal didn't come. Then let's go together. After all, they're in the dark, and we're in the light. Being cautious is always right. I understand. Shio Wuji looked out the window, turning his head. He's got me again. So embarrassing. But to my surprise, the Shinji nightclub isn't actually that far away. It's only a 15 or 16-minute taxi ride. Chichio finally couldn't help but ask. Such a short itinerary. Don't tell me you've never even heard of this place. If I frequently came to places like this, then Anin wouldn't have you. Meanwhile, the driver in the car was instantly stunned. Let's see what kind of relationship they have. Bei Miao Comics. The ancient girl looked pure and innocent. Yet she asked Chu Gu to take her to a nightclub in the middle of the night. But after finishing a large beer, her little face turned red. The roar of singing and dancing filled the surroundings. But I could still hear her racing heart. It turned out Chichio was sulking in the car. Ever since she found out the wall walker came from the Miracle nightclub, she's been wanting to investigate it. But as soon as she entered the hall, she broke out in a cold sweat. Men and women were embracing and dancing in the hall. Soft, elegant music echoed gently. The lights flickered across the dancing bodies. Autumn Limitless clearly saw someone, embracing and kissing while dancing. Others ignored them. I glanced around. This is still normal. But Chichio turned pale with fright. She pointed to the embracing couple. You call this normal? Of course it's normal. We weren't even checked when we came in. This place is open to the public. But Chichio's eyes gradually turned cold. How do you know this place so well? Do you come here often? I was just about to explain, when a beer and some peanuts were delivered. But a waiter's whispers came from behind. Never seen anyone so stingy before. 1 beer for 2 people. Bei Miao Comics. What's wrong? Bei Miao Comics. Are you bothered by other people's stares? Bei Miao Comics. Chichio sensed my discomfort. Shang Miao Comics. It seems you need to calm down if you want to cultivate immortality. Otherwise, you won't make progress. But I don't think so. When you just couldn't hail a cab and were treated like a fool, weren't you still trying to hit me? Hearing this, her expression instantly changed. A sharp pain shot through my waist. Are you a little kid or something? Still slapping meat at 1,000 years old? She coldly snorted at me. Immediately, she picked up her wine cup and gulped it down in one go. But she sprayed it out halfway through. What kind of horse urine is this? It's so undrinkable. I'm at a loss for words, somewhere between laughing and crying. It's beer. You probably just spat out 10 yuan with that mouthful. Hearing this, she became even more suspicious. This is just a dance hall. Why is it so expensive? In her world, a few coins would be enough to buy a good pot of wine. The waiter would even thoughtfully add some roasted meat. It's not a matter of your common sense. Is there a problem here? I leaned close to her ear and asked, can you explore this area with your spiritual sense? She nodded affirmatively. As her spiritual sense broke through the shell, more and more images flooded her mind. Only then did she realize her spiritual sense was too strong, and that wasn't a good thing. She sensed a couple embracing and kissing next door. The woman's clothes were almost slipped down to her elbows, revealing an expanse of fair skin. I noticed her breathing becoming faster and faster, and our touching arms grew hotter and hotter, like I had a fever. Could this be from drinking too much? I leaned closer, questioning her with doubt. But she didn't react at all. Her little face turned bright red. Something inside me was stirring, yearning. It was a feeling I'd never experienced before in my life. Just as I was about to shout in her ear, Master, wake up, she suddenly broke free from her trance. You scoundrel. Will you ever stop? Do you really want me to beat you up? But after I dodged, for some reason, she felt a little empty inside. Even the dancers beside her didn't seem so irritating anymore. Her spiritual sense finally extended further and became more refined. And at that moment, she saw a girl being trampled underfoot. I was just about to say I found it, but a burst of excited cheers erupted around the dance floor. Looking towards the center, her eyes glazed over. What in the world is this? The music style changed from the previous mellow elegance. It became passionate and unrestrained. Even the flashing lights seemed faster. She blankly blurted out a sentence. I shouldn't have come. But she found herself increasingly captivated by the man beside her. So the money was all spent on knife skills. For some reason, she felt a little unhappy inside, but she still didn't show it. Whether he watches or not, what does it matter to me? But when the atmosphere at the scene reached its climax, Chicho's eyes went black again. In such a public place. Is your world this unrestrained? An ancient girl's first time at a nightclub, yet she has the gang boss bowing and scraping before her. But the reason she infiltrated the venue was to save the girl who lives next door to me. Just a short while ago, they were still jealous of each other. But now she's become a kind and gentle big sister next door. If you're afraid they'll find you, why don't you move in and live with us? After being at the bar for a while, I pulled her away from the chaotic dancing crowd, quietly around a corner. Where it seemed there was no way forward, a new path unexpectedly appeared. A corridor, looking like a staff passage, opened up, but several large men stood at the end. They looked forbidding, like, keep out. I suggested that Chucho use her invisibility spell to get me in, but she gave me a contemptuous look. I thought you were going to drag me into some trouble. Actually, you wanted to save that girl, right? Seeing that I couldn't deny it, I had no choice but to confess. After all, she's our neighbor. It wouldn't be good if something happened to her in a place like this. But she just coldly snorted and walked away. Are you just going to walk right over there like that? Too late to stop her. Several strong men surrounded Chucho, but she simply touched the center of their foreheads with her bare hands. Everyone bowed to her. And I quickly followed her inside. She must have used some kind of mind control spell again. Meanwhile, at the arena, a young girl, wielding twin blades, trembled uncontrollably. Every spectator outside the iron cage was filled with bloodlust. Shouts of, kill her, rose and fell. As the huge man before her attacked with all his might, the girl instinctively tried to dodge, but she found her body completely immobile. She keenly sensed someone outside. They were using gravity manipulation on her. North Meow Comics. North Meow Comics, but her body was completely unresponsive. The man's fist had already grazed her abdomen. She was blown away, rolling on the ground several times. Her body heavily crashed into the iron railing. She spat out a mouthful of blood, but it was blocked by the mask on her face, slowly dripping down from under the mask. But the man showed no mercy. It seems they want her dead. She knows someone offered $1 million to ensure her loss, but she doesn't want to die yet. Some past scenes flashed through her eyes. The neighbor who had shown her some kindness, and the optimistic boy she always seemed to bump into. She struggled to pick up the weapon on the ground. Just as the man was about to deliver the fatal blow, a dark shadow wrapped around his ankle from the shadows. At least before I tell him that. I don't want to die yet. Yue Ying's body described a beautiful arc in the air. The strong man was also sent flying off the ring. The scene became restless. Some people even started trying to climb over the barriers. But after the girl glanced back, she quieted the crowd. At that moment, she truly looked like the Grim Reaper. But the next moment, she fell heavily to the ground. That crushing weight bore down on her again. The pain in her lower abdomen made her break out in a cold sweat. Even though she fought desperately, it was useless. Forget it. If I die, wouldn't it stop hurting then? But at that moment, a voice entered her mind. Gravity has been released. Try standing up. There's absolutely no time to consider anything. The survival instinct made Yue Ying subconsciously perform a backflip. Dodging a punch, Ba Jing simultaneously arrived beneath the broadcast platform. The clamor abruptly and eerily paused for half a second. Many people tried to rush onto the stands, but they were restrained by something, unable to leave. The scene was in utter chaos, like a wild animal cage. The girl in the darkness slowly raised her head, only to see a very familiar figure. In the blink of an eye, she found herself outside. Xiao Wuji stopped, slightly out of breath. I quickly supported her waist. I'm fine. Her voice was broken. Go hail a cab first. Wait until I'm far away. Only then did she look at the girl who hadn't said a word. She curiously pressed herself against the wall. Are you usually this quiet? The girl was momentarily stunned. She thought to herself, she must be Chu Ji's girlfriend. She hurriedly lowered her head. I'm sorry. I'm not used to talking to people. But Chiu's heart yearned to see other things. She and Chugu seemed to have known each other for a long time. Perhaps even much longer than I have. But she truly couldn't bring herself to dislike this petite girl. She sighed. Take off your mask. You're just going to hail a taxi like this. Yue Ying's voice was somewhat helpless. My face is covered in blood. I can't be seen. But the next moment, her mask slipped to the ground, revealing her beautiful features. Meanwhile, the horrifying bloodstains on her face were gone. Only a pale complexion and bloodless lips remained, testifying to the severity of her injuries just now. Why did you save me? She stared blankly at the woman in front of her, but I sharply interrupted her the next moment. The police have surrounded the place. Let's go quickly. After bringing Yue Ying home, Chicho changed her usual fierce demeanor. Are you injured anywhere? Why were they trying to kill you? Looking at her with that motherly look, I couldn't help but complain. Before, you were planning to personally drive her away, erase her memories and all that. But Chicho immediately glared at me. Scram. You're making it hard for girls here to even speak. Where did you learn to say that? I had no choice but to go into the bathroom myself. Yue Ying broke out in a cold sweat. Why is he acting so cowardly in front of this woman? He's such a wimp. But watching Chiu Wuji getting closer and closer, her heart grew more and more complex. What is this? I'm clearly somewhat jealous of her. Am I disturbing their lives? Chicho looked at the girl who was silent, head bowed. She too felt a pang of emotion. Coming to this world, she knew that the people here all need to use various means to make a living. And why does she look a little afraid of me? She squeezed out a smile. It's not safe for you to be alone. Why don't you move in and live with us? We're clearly roommates, but we're more like a married couple. To claim my sovereignty in front of Yue Ying, she seriously brandished her tiny fists at me. A lecher like you has such a cute roommate. Why would you still flirt with other girls? It turns out that after rescuing Yue Ying from the nightclub, despite her high cultivation, she seemed rather fatigued. But after we returned home, she cast suspicious glances at me. A flirtatious scoundrel. It's none of your business what the girls are chatting about. I reluctantly went into the bathroom. Meanwhile, Jojo began to appraise Yue Ying from head to toe. Even I don't possess your shadow abilities. It's a very powerful talent. The girl became a little nervous. She didn't know why the two people in front of her were saving her. She clearly had a soft spot for that writer. But why would this older sister save her rival in love? I felt like something sharp pierced the depths of my soul. It felt like I'd been completely and thoroughly examined. But Chicho poured her a cup of hot tea. How did you develop this ability? Yue Ying hesitated. I had no one to play with when I was little. I often talked to my shadow. Slowly, I discovered they seemed to understand me. Since when? I poked my head out of the bathroom. The next moment, a pillow slammed into my face. Go take your shower. Is this asking about which year? The powerful aura caused Yue Ying to freeze on the spot. She listened to the sound of water rushing in the bathroom. Bei Meow Comics. After a long while, she explained in a low voice. Bei Meow Comics. About 3 or 4 years ago. Bei Meow Comics. Bei Meow Comics. I don't remember the specifics. Why are you talking to your shadow alone? Don't you have family or friends? Hearing this, Yue Ying slowly lowered her head. She seemed a little down. It seems there's something hard to say. The room fell silent. My mood sank. I recalled her expectant expression each time. Perhaps she was truly lonely. Thank you for saving me. I will move out immediately. I won't cause you any trouble. She was about to leave, but Shio grabbed her hand. This one wants to protect the person. And who else would dare to cause trouble? Her eyes were full of determination. Listening to the sounds outside the door, I didn't expect that Chicho would actually want Yue Ying to stay at my house. What if this turns into a complete mess? But Yue Ying shook her head. I can't control my abilities. I'll cause you trouble. But in Xiao Zongju's eyes, she's a rare talent. With more training, she might even develop spiritual abilities. Hasn't anyone hired you as a bodyguard, assassin, or something like that? Yue Ying quietly turned her head. I don't trust them, and I don't want to listen to their orders. How many matches I win, how much money I get. That's reassuring to me. Xiao Wuji looked into her eyes. I know she's a very solitary girl. She has thick walls around her heart. She only trusts the shadows around her. But then I heard a sound from the bathroom door. She jumped up like a little cat. I won't go boxing anymore. And I won't look for Chugu anymore. I won't disturb the two of you. Chicho's voice suddenly rose in pitch. Who says we're a couple? But the girl's body almost bent to 90 degrees. I backed out of the room. What exactly did you say to her? I walked out of the bathroom, towel drying my hair, only to see Chiu Wuji with a face like thunder. Before I could react, a flurry of punches rained down on me. It's all your fault. Flirting with everyone every day. You should clear my name. I quickly assumed a defensive posture. We are innocent and have nothing to hide. Why bother about what others think? Bullshit. I am the head of the sect. I wanted to take her there to cultivate her. How can people say we are husband and wife? Wait a minute. She suddenly became curious. Do you have any way to get Yue Ying into our world? I knew you'd think of that. But I can't even get in myself. How can I get someone else in? She wants me to add a character. But even if I write a new character that looks like Yue Ying and that character would still be two different people. I originally intended the protagonist to be myself. But actually, it's not. Xiao Wuji rested her elbows on her knees, her chin in her hands, silent. But watching her think about writing, I couldn't help but smile a little. Why don't you write the sequel yourself? It must be fun for the heroine to write her own story. She looked into my eyes. The smile she showed was like the most beautiful star of this summer. Is that really possible? The girl couldn't sleep, tossing and turning in the middle of the night. Because the wounds on her body hadn't healed yet, her heart inexplicably ached. Watching the second wife's affectionate manner, clearly her lifesaver. But what was this restless, jealous feeling? She was both gentle and beautiful. Chu Gu has her by his side. He wouldn't even look at me, would he? It turned out that after sending Yuing away, Chiu caused trouble for her former roommate. Although I didn't want Yuing and Gu to get too close, that child is indeed quite rare, a promising trainee. Should I include her in my story? But I immediately rejected her proposal to write a book. Whether it's effective or not, I wouldn't let you write it. Because our writing styles are incompatible. If readers find out it's ghostwritten, it'll be a disaster. If you want the story to be believable, first, you have to convince the readers. She seemed unconvinced. Then I'll just beat up all the dissenting readers. Writing a book isn't cultivating immortality. Readers' acceptance will affect the existence of your world. It's like how people believe Jiao Chan existed during the Han Dynasty, even though she's not in actual historical records. But many people remember her name. So in a way, she does exist. She was slightly stunned by this. She had originally thought that simply finishing the writing would suffice. But now it seems the readers are actually quite important. She furrowed her brow. A soft, murmuring voice escaped her lips. Then Father God, shouldn't you hurry up and write? But I had just turned around to prepare to work, when she called out my name. Show me the book you wrote before. Why did you suddenly want to see that? Her face turned slightly red. Because I want to know you a little better. As roommates, it's normal to get to know each other, right? I, having stayed up half the night, had just stepped out of the room. I saw an ancient monster, leisurely leaning against the sofa and reading a book. But her face looked redder and redder the more I looked at it. This author is terrible. The beautiful sect leader scoffed, glanced at her phone, and then made a fist. Is that how you use the idiom, throwing a whip to stop a river? Many authors have a relatively low level of writing. Misusing idioms is quite normal. I just leaned over to see which book she was reading, but I still felt that this idiom seemed somehow familiar. Looking at this text with its vulgar imagery, a chill went down my spine. I knocked, isn't this the book I wrote myself? I was just about to explain that it's poetic and picturesque, when Chiu's fist came flying, and the female sect leader and her female disciples serving together. You're so daring. Why don't you just go die, Gu? In the room next door, at the same time, the girl curled up in bed, the wound in her abdomen still aching faintly. She lay with her eyes open, listening to the commotion next door. I spent the whole night awake. Meanwhile, at the Miracle nightclub, Lin Wuyang and his men entered the nightclub, but after a thorough search, they found nothing suspicious. Since this operation didn't have a search warrant, the other side was probably prepared. If I don't leave now, I'll only alert them. But as he stepped out the door, a voice called out from behind him. Director Lin, working so late. You must be exhausted. Would you like to sit down and have some hot tea? Are you the owner of this place? It wasn't you before. The man in front merely adjusted his glasses. I just took over the family business. Please understand, officer. Lin Wuyang's mind raced over the legal details of Shinji nightclub. It was indeed changed just a few days ago. The man reached out to him. An intense pressure instantly rose around him. My name is Zhang Qiren. Please take care of me, officer. It's clearly just a cohabitation relationship. But the girl wants to assert her dominance in front of Ruoyan. Watching them talk intimately, she pouted angrily beside me. Gu, tell me the truth. Who is this bad woman? It turned out that Chiu, to get to know me better, actually suggested reading the novels I'd written. But as she scrolled through her phone, her expression darkened. And the female sect leader and her female disciples waited together. You're quite daring. Who wants to read your vulgar writing style? Do you have some misunderstanding about self-packaging? It's still like a fairyland being served by the female sect leader. But just at that moment, my doorbell suddenly rang. Chiu and I were both alerted simultaneously. Could it be that the people from the Shinji nightclub have already discovered our whereabouts? But as soon as I opened the door, she froze. Who is this strange woman? She turned her head cautiously in my direction, and I also sensed something was wrong. But when I saw who it was, I was even more stunned than Chiu Wuji. The woman in front of me was full of mature charm. Even a business suit couldn't hide her beautiful figure. She's the woman I met on my last blind date. And I was just a struggling writer earning 3,000 yuan a month in her eyes. But she's even more stunning now. Just seeing a stunning beauty walk out, opening the door already made her head feel hot. But after seeing the man clearly, a surge of displeasure arose in her heart. They went on a blind date not long ago, and now he's living with someone else. They were even wearing matching pajamas. One with a crying face, the other with a smiling face, like a performance art piece, a cartoon. She said she was looking for someone. Is there a young woman living opposite, who often wears black and doesn't talk much, to prevent her from harming Yueying? You're not even sure if someone like that lives here. Then how did you find this place? But she put on a gentle smile. Aunt Wu and I are colleagues. Before, she PLN'd to let me and you. She paused at this point. It seemed she didn't want to continue. I felt a little awkward. But since she has some connection to my mother, her identity seems believable. But Chiu Wuji, who has been silent for a while, feels a little uncomfortable. Why do they seem so familiar with each other? She clears her throat. Gu, aren't you going to introduce us? Only then did I come to my senses. But I saw Chiu's face full of resentment. Gu Ruoyan and I spoke at the same time, saying we were just ordinary friends. and she just warmed her eyes brightly. This beautiful lady is. Even though I should have stopped, a strong impulse surged within me. Subconsciously, I reached out and put my arms around Chiu Wuji's waist. I said each word carefully. This is my girlfriend. The moment my hand landed on her waist, her whole body tensed up. Unexpectedly, she didn't resist. Instead, she secretly pinched my waist hard. I gestured a few colors to her. Please, help me save face. I'll beat you up later. She sensed my show of defiance. I clearly didn't allow him to touch me, but for some reason, I felt a little happy inside. Then she mimicked my pose, frowning and hands on hips. It was like she was staking her claim. But Ruoyan was a little speechless. Did they misunderstand something? She turned gracefully and knocked on the opposite door. Yue cautiously poked her head out, but after seeing the woman's credentials, she fell silent again, until the two figures disappeared before me. It seems that Yue associating with government officials isn't a bad thing after all. I just let out a sigh of relief, but Chio's slightly angry voice reached my ears. When are you going to take that dog off my waist? I hastily explained, just trying to save face, but she revealed a playful smile. She didn't care about that at all. Showing off how well you're doing to someone who doesn't care about you. Isn't this just childish? But when I mentioned that Gu Ruoyan was my former blind date, she reacted extremely violently. When did you go on a blind date? Then what you did just now was right. You should have made her furious. What are you talking about? The atmosphere suddenly felt wrong. Her face turned red instantly. It felt like I said something wrong. She started stammering in front of me. I mean, there's a saying online, that once you ignored me, tomorrow you'll find me unattainable. My father, the Divine Lord, is naturally unattainable to others. Yes, that's it. I feel like I'm getting stuck. She quickly dashed into the living room. Like a kitten, she picked up the little pig pillow. You, go write your book. I need a break. But then she asked another question. I saw a badge in that woman's hand. Could she be a constable? In our world, we call them police. Or maybe some kind of confidential unit. Let's not get involved in Yue Ying's affairs. But Chio's expression turned serious. The woman just now also had abilities, and when she was at the door, she was probing our minds. The girl was still sulking, but the next second, she softened and started washing his clothes. Because she felt that the time she was held by Chu Gu upstairs, something seemed to be changing slowly. Although seeing Ruoyan eat like that made me a little happy. Why did I just assume she was his girlfriend? It turned out that after Ruoyan and she did take Yue Ying from next door after all. But even with her mind-reading ability, she was still somewhat puzzled. Yue Ying's powerful abilities couldn't escape her notice. But why couldn't she read the thoughts of the woman beside Chu Gu? Yue Ying left, carrying large and small bags. Chio felt a little reluctant. She really wanted to remain friends with her. After all, in this world, she didn't know anyone except me. A gentle breeze blew her long hair. She stared into my eyes. Can you just write down a shadow cultivation technique? I thought something like this, just casually. Writing a generic sect member would be enough. But she became a little dazed. This ability is too abnormal. Anything written becomes prominent. What if he writes a female companion for himself later? What am I even thinking? Chio felt that she was acting strangely. She pretended to be angry and turned her head. But seeing the man's lecherous expression, she subconsciously kicked him. You scoundrel. It's all your fault. But because of my previous cultivation, I actually dodged her attack. Xiao Wuji bit her lip, glaring. But looking at the man's expression, she felt a little reluctant. Why did I agree to let him hold my waist back then? I felt something was changing yesterday. I felt my own strange state of mind. She quietly lowered her head. Then she made a forceful turn. I'm not making breakfast. Just go out and eat yourself. A wry smile escaped me. But involuntarily, the books I once wrote came to mind. Like Chio, the lively protagonist. It was the first time she appeared in my writing. But just as I was returning with breakfast, my phone suddenly rang. It was my university class monitor, suggesting a class reunion. But my single sentence sparked everyone's teasing. A great writer's speech is just different. I silently sighed. I once harbored the dream of becoming a top writer. But as an online novelist, I had to bow to life for 2 yuan worth of steamed buns. With a somewhat dejected mood, I silently entered the entrance hall. But what met my eyes was Chiu Wuji, tidying up the laundry basket. It was just like the first time she cooked for me. I felt like I finally had a home. I'm a little puzzled why she doesn't use magic to clean, but she continues to study the washing machine. I want to understand everything in this world. How can I experience it if I use magic for everything? I took a bite of a bun and said I was going to write, but Chio stopped me. I turned my head, somewhat puzzled, but she smiled back at me. Although your book is, but I think, it's very well written. I felt that what I said sounded a little off. She quickly added, that, I mean, to be able to manifest my true form. It's certainly amazing. In the warm breeze, the shadow of her hair flicked. But it made my heart feel like it was about to melt. A girl went out to buy groceries alone. She chose a potato as a lucky charm, simply because potatoes didn't exist in ancient times. And Chubu even said it was a foreign thing. It made her miss out on a lot of delicious food, but recalling the man in front of others, he said she was his girlfriend, but she could hardly hide the smile on her face. This time, I'll make him some potato and beef stew. I find that Chicho is a little different from usual today. She not only took the initiative to do the housework, but also praised my work. Watching her toss her hair, I fell headlong onto the soft bed. This was the first time she'd ever complimented me like that. Usually, it was things like, "Pervert, why don't you go die?" And because of the featured recommendation, my novel's data has been rising lately. I felt overflowing energy. I rapidly tapped the keyboard, preparing for 3 updates a day. But the next moment, I was a little stunned. Logically, she should be about to fight the demon sect. She should be in seclusion cultivating. But she's here, hanging out at my bar, watching the show. She even got hooked on novels and dramas. This doesn't look like seclusion at all. What if it delays the later battles? The book says she's destined to win, but I still feel uneasy. It seems like, I don't know when, she has become a very important person in my life. Meanwhile, on the other side, Chiu Wuji was strolling in front of the stalls, browsing. She discovered that in the opposite direction of Chu Ji's usual haunts, there was a vegetable market. Not only was it cheaper than the supermarket, and it looks like it's in better condition. I wonder why Chu Gu always goes to the supermarket. What a fool. And that guy even lied to me, saying potatoes are something foreigners eat. Because of him, I missed out on so much food. But at that moment, a spiritual energy suddenly rushed towards her. She turned her head alertly, but found it was a setting added by Chu Gu. Chiu Wuji's soul became even more substantial. Her divided soul roamed freely, observing the changes in the world, inexhaustible. She couldn't help but sigh softly. I'll forgive you this time. But her heart pounded faster and faster. He just patched things up. Could I stay by his side forever? A WeChat notification sounded just then. As Chocho rummaged in her bag, her expression turned dazed. Chu Ji's avatar, a 2D anime girl, sent a message. Where are you? She hooked a potato and a piece of beef with her little finger while voice typing. I'm at the market. How about I stew some potato and beef for you tonight? The next moment, Chu Ji's voice came from the phone. Can you come back early? I'm a little uneasy. She quickly SCN'd the code to pay. And the boss couldn't help but comment. What a loving couple. Even when you go out to buy groceries, your husband doesn't want you to go alone. Husband. Hearing this word, Chocho's small face instantly turned red. She quickly fled the scene, carrying her cloth bag. I thought there was something overlooked regarding Yue Ying's matter, but when she learned that I was worried about her decisive battle, she busied herself. Then she smiled like a flower. What are you thinking, you silly? Let's talk when I get back. She arrived home soon after, and saw me sitting restlessly on the sofa. She looked somewhat puzzled. Isn't it said that fate can't be defied? How could I possibly lose a victory you've already secured? But my expression grew serious. After all, swords and blades are unforgiving. What if there's a slip-up and someone gets hurt? Looking at the man with anger on his face, her heart skipped a beat. This is the first time she's been cared for like this. Ordinary sect disciples only see her as the invincible sect leader, but you seem to have forgotten that I am Chiu Wuji. No matter what fate decrees, I will do my best to defeat every opponent. Looking at me like you want to say something, she smiled again. Cultivation isn't necessarily martial arts. You're not a celestial being, so you can't understand this feeling. So how would you know? My life and yours are not just about repairing markers. She turned and went into the kitchen with the vegetables. The bird's tail bobbed up and down. Then she turned to me, revealing a mischievous, bright smile. Could it be that you've fallen for me? The man kindly opened the washing machine, but the girl sulked beside him. It was simply because I wanted to share some housework with Chocho. I reached in and pulled out what was left, her intimate undergarment, still carrying her scent. I thought she was going to give me the cold shoulder again, but she carried out a cardboard box from the bedroom. It was filled with newly bought socks. She pouted her lips in slight dissatisfaction. The internet says you men like these things. That day, Chiu Wuji became unusually gentle. She carried the newly bought potatoes into the kitchen, but my heart was fluttering. Watching her swaying high ponytail, I inexplicably felt a sense of home. Her behavior always conformed to the way of cultivation. From the beginning, she wasn't in a rush to do anything specific. Instead, she explored the world little by little, starting from small things. Even doing my laundry and cooking for me, she was so enthusiastic. But while I was lost in thought, the washing machine's alert on the balcony burst into my mind. Although I had planned to write a few more chapters, thinking that Chocho must be very tired today, I had to get up and go to the balcony. But my hand had just reached into the washing machine, when a strange sensation stimulated my fingertips. It was Chocho's underwear, and it was much larger than I imagined. Is this something that can be washed in a washing machine? I glanced cautiously towards the kitchen like a thief. I was about to turn around and hook the clothes rack, but a somewhat low voice made me shiver. If you like taking them so much, just take more, why don't you? She leaned against the door, arms crossed. It turned out she had been observing me from top to bottom for a long time. Bye bye Meow Comics. I was just about to explain to her. Bye Meow Comics. But she went into her room without saying a word. Is she angry already? But after a few minutes, she was carrying a large box and threw it in front of me. And what caught my eye were stockings that appeared from nowhere. Her voice was rather cold. Enough? Not enough, I'll buy more. A doubt flickered in my mind. Have you been trying to learn how to open an online store lately? But Chiuchio's gaze towards me was filled with strangeness. Stinky lecher. Aren't these your favorites? Where on earth did you learn this stuff? I saw it in the comments section of your novel. They said you men like this kind of thing. Do you want me to put them on for you? She pointed to the clothes rack in my hand. So, can you return that thing to me now? I honestly let go. I felt somewhat dumbfounded and amused. The harm of the internet really has taught this old lady quite a few bad things. But the moment she got the item, her expression changed. Next time you sneakily take my things and do strange things, I'll shove your head into the washing machine. I'll throw all the socks in and wash them together. Watching her wave her hand and perform cleaning magic, I didn't know what to say. I thought she wasn't angry with me anymore. But she just turned her head and glared at me. What are you doing here? There's still food stewing in the pot. Don't you want to help me turn off the stove? After a while, she served dinner. I told you I have a classmate reunion. I might not be back for dinner. Xiao Shuang seemed a little puzzled by the reunion. It's like disciples from the same sect, scheduling a time to get together, to see who's doing better. She didn't speak, but her face showed a hint of unhappiness. Why doesn't this idiot think of bringing me along? Is he going to secretly meet his old lover again? She sized the man up and down. He touched his original body. I can travel to this world then. I'm really afraid I won't be able to hold back and beat him to a pulp. But the next moment, she felt a little surprised. How many days did you practice this time? 3 days. Meditating once in the morning and once in the evening each day. Chichio held back a sigh and lowered her head to eat. I'm a little afraid I won't be able to hold back and hit him. I shouldn't have taught this guy to cultivate. He entered the chi refining stage in just 3 days. In her world, he's practically a genius. And this guy still puts on an innocent act. What if he goes out and flirts with other women again? What if I can't discipline him myself? She deliberately made a disdainful expression. I thought the Father God was incredibly brilliant and talented. It seems he's just average. But I proposed that I wanted to learn some magic myself, always relying on girls for fights. What kind of talk is that? Chichio's getting serious. It's not bad to have the ability to protect oneself. Which one do you want to learn first? My eyes lit up. Of course it's invisibility. It would be best to have another x-ray. The next second, half a bowl of rice was dumped on my head. I could still hear Chichio's furious voice in my ears. You incorrigible rascal. Go learn it yourself. The girl has a superpower. As long as I hide under the covers, I can go anywhere. But she wrapped herself up tightly in front of me. Because clothes can't be teleported with the body. What if the remaining underclothes were taken by some scoundrel and misused? Just yesterday, I suggested I wanted to learn some magic from Chiuchio. But she directly slammed her rice bowl onto my head. Because the invisibility and x-ray vision I suggested seemed to be considered something improper by her. Facing the hot tea I offered, she looked very angry. When have I ever accepted a pervert like you as my disciple? It's one thing to flirt around, but you also want to learn this kind of ability that only thugs use. She stood up, ready to hit someone. Even the girls next door have run off with your old flames. Who else are you PLNing to use this ability on? Besides, according to your own setting, invisibility is a high-level technique. Your current cultivation level is simply not capable of learning it. Furthermore, that trashy, perspective, clairvoyance, technique is only useful for satisfying your own selfish desires. What else is it good for? I immediately began to retort. Can't I use this to see scratch-off lottery tickets? But Chiuchio just paused for a moment. His expression turned serious. What you should be learning now are life-saving skills. This world, for ordinary people, might be very safe and peaceful. But you. She looked up at the stars outside the window. He paused, not continuing to speak. She clutched the small pig pillow in her hand tighter and tighter. She felt like she had reached her limit this time. But if I return to my own world, what if that fool gets into danger? What if that fool is in danger? She suddenly turned her head, her expression serious. The first thing you should master is your body movements, Bebe Meow Man. This movement is called Boundless Clouds and Waters. It's for escaping. Although the movements feel a bit feminine, I still couldn't resist her threats and inducements, and began to meditate. I'll teach you a fighting technique. My eyes lit up at those words. But she stroked her chin with a mischievous smile. I thought for a moment. Honing fighting skills requires a lot of real-world practice. Writing books to make money isn't suitable for you. We should change our tactics. A cold sweat broke out on my back. I just felt something wasn't right. But the next moment, a golden light surrounded me. Just learn the iron shirt technique. As long as you can take a beating. Her knuckles cracked as she clenched her fists. It'll be easier for me to fight later. The old man downstairs watched TV, occasionally glancing up at the ceiling, emitting sounds of uncertain meaning. That young couple upstairs are quite something. It's the middle of the night, and you're not sleeping. But I'm lying on the ground with a huge bump on my head. My eyes are still spinning. Chocho stepped on me a few more times. Get up. It's just the beginning. This is your iron shirt training method. What's the difference between her beating me up for no reason and peace? But she just waved her hand dismissively. After I analyzed and simplified the training method, look, didn't I succeed? At that moment, I realized, after taking that beating from her, my body had actually undergone a fundamental change. Could it be that she was thinking of me? But she had a contemptuous expression on her face. No, she just simply wanted to touch my. But seeing the man radiating golden light, she gave me a few more whacks on the forehead. Well, he has indeed become much stronger. I just don't know what he's up to. It felt like a stone had fallen into her heart, as she left her seat. I'm going home, you idiot. You have to take care of yourself from now on. But I felt a pang of reluctance in my heart. Although it wasn't as painful as her sudden disappearance last time, Chocho seemed to sense my thoughts. She blinked at me brightly, as if saying, don't worry. She burrowed under the covers. Okay, I'm leaving now. Don't touch my things. Without any warning, the blanket collapsed like a deflated balloon. I stood there speechless for a long time. But the next moment, I had an evil idea. As I opened my computer, the sound of rapid keyboard typing filled the air. Chi Wuji's split soul wandered, lost in thought about the ways of heaven. But she forgot the seclusion array she had set up wasn't meant for casual traversal. With a bang, the split soul collided with the stone gate. He sprawled out against the door, slowly sliding down. Xiao Zhongzhu's scream echoed to the heavens. Chu Gu, you just wait for me. The man was a struggling novelist, a nobody. Even his old classmates, whom he hadn't seen in years, looked down on him. But he had a stunningly beautiful female fan. She asked the man for his autograph right in front of everyone. She then happily ran off. I was so embarrassed I could have dug a 3-bedroom apartment with my toes. It was all because of the female fan who suddenly appeared. It turned out to be Chiu Wuji, who unexpectedly decided to support me. After I sent Chucho back to her world in the book, I finally have some time to write again. My phone rings. I knew I couldn't avoid it forever. And today is the day of my high school reunion. The reunion dinner is being held at an extravagant restaurant. But I felt completely out of place at the dinner. I just wanted to ask how Lin Wuyang, who works at the police station, got Chucho an ID card. I didn't expect him not to show up. But the next moment, a familiar voice entered my mind. Sorry I'm late. I was busy with work and lost track of time. Lin Wuyang started lecturing me as soon as he came up. Although he's now a section chief at the municipal bureau, the feelings from sharing a dorm room in university haven't faded. But my gaze wasn't on him. He sensed it and turned his head. A man in designer clothes was slowly walking upstairs. He was followed by a group of men in suits. Everyone gasped in amazement. Such a display of power must be some rich kid, or maybe a member of some gang. But I felt a cold sweat break out. I was terrified. I knew that face all too well. He's Zhang Qiren, Bebe Miomon, my former roommate who I used to write novels with. Bebe Miomon. But now, his startup failed, and he's inherited his family's fortune. It's not a joke anymore, only I'm still a failure. And even worse, I was mocked by everyone. Great writer Chu, where can we buy your books? We need to see them. But I couldn't answer at all. So I just made up an excuse about an online novel with no physical book. I bluffed my way through it. But everyone's questions became even more intense. Could it be that you write those kinds of inappropriate novels? Like, rural ant stories or something? I quickly recognized the gazes coming from all directions. I felt a little sad. It seemed the world's prejudice against online writers had never changed. Oh, right, Chu Gu. I heard you don't have a girlfriend yet. Hearing that just made me feel completely drained. I already lack social interaction. Now I just want to dig a hole and bury myself. Luckily, Lin Wuyang saved me. You don't understand. Writers usually have female fans. There was even news before of a writer marrying a female fan. But the next moment, I heard laughter in my ears. That would have to be a famous writer, right? Chu Gu is just someone who writes books, isn't he? The atmosphere at the scene immediately became awkward. The student realized he had spoken out of turn. He immediately stood up. I'll punish myself first with a toast, he said. I forced a smile, appearing unconcerned, but my heart felt incredibly heavy. But the next second, a slender, Snow White, a small hand reached out in front of me. Excuse me, are you Mr. Churon? Could you please sign an autograph for me? I looked up, somewhat puzzled. A girl in a white shirt, blue jeans, and a high ponytail came running from the side. The book you wrote. I think it's wonderful. Xiao Wuji slowly revealed a sweet smile, like the last warm rays of autumn sunshine, touching my heart. I became a little dazed, for a moment not knowing how to respond. Finally, she mumbled 2 thank yous. Under everyone's astonished gaze, I signed my name in her notebook. He actually has female fans, and this is so unfair. She's unbelievably beautiful. Soon, 3 rounds of drinks had passed. A head waiter rushed over. Mr. Zhang from the private room upstairs heard that the great writer Chu was dining here, and has already settled the bill for you. This instantly ignited the atmosphere. More and more people came up, eager to win me over. Only Lin Wuyang gave me a wink. I understood his intention. As we strolled along the street, his expression turned serious. How much do you know about Zhang Qiren? I was about to evade the question, but a strange power gripped my nerves. I actually lost the ability to lie. I once thought I understood very well. Now it seems I know nothing. Confirmed that it was the truth, he breathed a sigh of relief. I thought you weren't close to him, but it seems you two have a pretty good relationship. You police are investigating him. Is he doing something shady? Lin Wuyang just slowly exhaled a puff of smoke. I don't know either. Our investigation was called off. Seeing his serious expression, I became even more suspicious of Zhang Qiren's true identity. But as a friend, there's something I need to remind you. Lin Wuyang put away his cigarette case. He put his hand on my shoulder. This isn't something ordinary people can get involved in. Meow Comics. Remember Miracle Nightclub? Don't go there normally. North Meow Comics. To help her man regain his face, the once formidable Autumn Sect Master has become my female fan. I felt the envious gazes of everyone. I couldn't help feeling a little smug. But Chocho didn't want to admit the reason for her return. I'm just your master. I don't want these worldly disturbances to disrupt your cultivation. The late summer breeze gently brushed past. A stray strand of her hair blew across her cheek. She gave me an amused expression. After all, my father God, no one can look down on him. The river water was unusually still, but a different kind of emotion welled up in my heart. Chocho's delicate face, at this moment, was as beautiful as a fairy who had stepped out of a painting. I subconsciously reached out my hand. As long as you like it, that's enough. A soft, warm sensation reached my fingertips. I looked at her profile. She simply gazed back calmly. The wind seemed to stop at that moment, but it was instantly interrupted by Chocho's angry shout. Bebe Meow Comics. You lecher. You've led me astray. Bebe Meow Comics. I came back to ask you why I hit the wall, Your Majesty. The perspective suddenly shifted to the living room. I felt the pain in my knees from kneeling on the keyboard. I responded somewhat carelessly. I just wrote it like that, to give the reader some amusement. Who knew a dignified tribulation crossing cultivator would actually? You'll stupidly charge right into it. So, how do you want to die? A pleasant death, alright. I wanted to be tough, but the next moment I was thrown against the wall by a force. My body was splayed against the wall, slowly sliding down. Just like Chiu Wuji I described in my writing. She clapped her hands in front of me, as if there was dust on them, but I unexpectedly found that I felt almost no pain after crashing into the wall. Could it be that the golden bell cover I practiced is so effective? Look at me, I seem perfectly fine. She's getting furious. Really think I wouldn't dare hit you? It's all thanks to my master's teachings, but still, it can't compare to master's grace. Even bumping into a wall, she does it beautifully. Shrugs. But I quickly realized I'd said the wrong thing. As a rain of punches descended upon me, I had no choice but to kneel and beg for mercy. Chocho's expression also changed. I've specially tailored a cultivation method just for you. Before I could respond, a durian the size of a basketball landed right on my head. I'll kill you. You're trying to murder your husband. But before I could finish the word husband, more durians rained down on my kidneys. Chocho supported herself with her waist, striking a teacherly pose. If even one more had rolled down, I would have suffered half an hour more. If all three roll down, you'll be pricked all night. I say she's settling a personal score, but she has a smug look on her face. I am the tribulation cultivator. I say how to practice, and that's how you practice. The durian on your head is to train your sense of balance. How can you be so unsteady on your feet at your age? For some reason, I suddenly felt she had a point. Looking at me obediently holding up the durian, Chiu Wuji turned her head and picked up the little pig pillow. A mischievous smile crept onto her lips. You stupid fool, you've been tricked. I just wanted to try out what it's like to torment a man with durian. Anyway, that's how it's written in novels and Meow comics. The girl had PLN'd to play a few more games, but a knock at the door disturbed her. As the door opened, a strange man appeared before my eyes, but his eyes were full of anger. We agreed to become Sigma males together. What are you doing living with a young girl? After the party, when I got home, Chicho's feet were beside me, and I was supporting a durian. She says she's doing it for my cultivation. But actually, her mind is full of wicked schemes. She tidied the room in a good mood. This room is such a mess. It's almost like a doghouse. As she looked around. But I always feel something's missing in the living room. Maybe I'll move 2 plants back here tomorrow. The jasmine and roses downstairs look nice. But I spoke up to stop her. Those are public property, you can't just take them. Besides, this is a rented house. Just a quick stop by will do. Unexpectedly, she became a little angry. Who wants to just make do with you? Her tone was somewhat resentful. You don't understand leisure and elegance at all. You're such a boring man. I was just thinking how I should coax this beautiful girl, who's a few thousand years old. But the next moment, the urgent doorbell rang like a downpour. Bebe Meow's face. Before I could open the door, the lock was open from the outside. A tall and straight man entered. But seeing the scene inside the room, he froze on the spot. A very beautiful woman stared at him with hostility. Her eyes were full of killing intent. He retreated a step, somewhat puzzled. He hadn't gone to the wrong address. Why was the layout of the entire house different? It's only been a few months. How has my once kissing roommate become so radiant? And that woman with the unfriendly face, isn't she the female fan who suddenly appeared at the party that day? He spoke with some sorrow. I thought I was the one betraying my class. I never expected that you would be the one to truly betray the revolution. The two brothers sat opposite each other across the coffee table. I felt awkward, burdened by the durian. My mind was completely muddled. As for Chiu Wuji, she simply hid inside the house and wouldn't show her face. She had no interest in entertaining ordinary people. Besides, most mortals would start by saying, "Sister-in-law, hello." I don't want to hear that. He noticed my discomfort. Instead, Zhang Qiren was the first to speak. I've come to give you a key. Just keep it for yourself, sister-in-law. Chichio silently screamed behind the door. Who is your sister-in-law? What's even more infuriating is that Chu Gu didn't refute. Instead, he directly defaulted. She angrily opened her computer. She didn't bother with those stinky men. I'm going to play games. But the two guys outside fell into a brief silence. Only the sound of Zhang Qi pouring tea could be heard. Drip drip drip. This time, I spoke first. You still like this tenuana pot tea? But he didn't even look up. We haven't even had a good month yet. It's not that precious. He realized I was looking at him skeptically. He froze slightly, fiddling with his teacup. Delivering food is real. Writing is also real. I'm not some second-generation heir inheriting a fortune. I'm just an illegitimate son of a wealthy man. I was a little stunned. Are there still such things these days? But he just let out a long sigh. Illegitimate children born from mistresses are quite common. The first wife's personality is quite strong, so it's like this. It's as if nothing happened to her at all. Zhang Qiren's tone was surprisingly calm. I'm nothing more than a scapegoat, pushed out by the family's useless members. A pitiful pawn, nothing more. Then why did you go back? Isn't there always a way out under the vast sky and boundless sea? Zhang Qiren looked up at the sky. He couldn't speak for a long time. Brother Chu, do you know, when I first started writing, I only had one reader who voted for me every day. I was very encouraged at the time. I thought, even if it was just for this one reader, I had to finish writing the book properly. I had that thought when I first started writing. Don't tell me that reader was actually a voting bot. I'm not a robot. A tender look appeared in Zhang Qiren's eyes. Even Chiu Wuji in the room put down his mouse and listened quietly. Later, one time, my mom and I talked about how my book writing was going. Note, Bebe Meow Comics is likely the name of a webcomic and is omitted from the translation as it's not relevant to the dialogue. Bebe Meow Comics. That time, she slipped up. Only then did I realize that my only reader was my mother. Meow Comics. My roommate's good friend secretly visited, but the girl hid in her bedroom, unwilling to see anyone. It's because as soon as these men came in, they wanted her to call them brother-in-law. She, the supreme leader of the cultivation world, how could she possibly marry a mere mortal and become a little wife? But I heard they want to go out drinking. She felt a little disappointed in her heart. What are you looking at me for? I don't control her that strictly. It turned out that Zhang Qiren suddenly visited me to reminisce, but I felt that this former good brother was becoming increasingly unfamiliar to me. He used to not even dare to drive away an insect, but now human life seems like ants in his eyes. I somewhat disagreed with his way of thinking, but he acted as if he didn't care. Half a year ago, that brother of mine sent some guys to bully me, but my abilities awakened, and I beat them all up. From then on, I understood that if you don't harm others, others will still harm you. I wanted to stubbornly do my own thing. We were too naive. I understand why he gradually turned dark. A person living between two worlds. It's already very difficult for Beibai Meow Comics to find like-minded people, but he still raised his teacup. Beibai Meow Comics. Beibai Meow Comics, at least you're still persevering with your writing. Watching you succeed is like my past dreams receiving affirmation. He suddenly stopped halfway through. Suddenly feel a little hungry. Want to go have a drink with me? Don't tell me you're going to keep wearing that durian. And I subconsciously glanced in the direction of Chio's bedroom. Since it's a brotherly invitation, I'll just let her beat me up when I get back. But Chio only grunted from inside the room. Possessing immortal arts, she naturally heard everything outside, crystal clear. This Zhang Qiren still wants to hide things from her. What are you all drinking and looking at me for? It's as if I'm some unreasonable little wife. But as Zhang Qiren walked, his expression gradually turned serious. The person who took Yueing that day. I know it was you. A chill ran down my spine. Even though we've been friends for years, I can't guarantee, in the face of profit, that he wouldn't turn on me. But as if he read my mind, he slowly lowered his head. Rest assured, I won't harm you. The black boxing thing wasn't something I started. You know, I just took over. This thing has existed for many years. I'm just a substitute for my half-brother. Just my brother's illegitimate son, taking the fall for him. Dealing with Yueying was also my useless brother's idea. Yueying's winning streak at that time caused the odds to skew severely. The company was also suffering losses internally, so he wanted to eliminate the girl outside the arena to prevent future problems. My heart relaxed a lot. At least I know his nature hasn't been corrupted yet. But he continued his statement under the streetlight. I was afraid of complications, so I brought a few brothers to follow the killer. Then you ran into me, right? I sighed. Zhang Qian nodded in response. So the woman beside you at that time was your sister-in-law. The killer later fell into Lin Wuyang's hands. My father immediately changed the legal representative and left the mess to me. But this change at the time was probably because of you. Why do you say that? Because you went to meet Yueying. This thread is connected. His voice gradually turned cold. After all, a person can't disappear out of thin air. It's obvious you should be very familiar with abilities, right? So your ability, what is it exactly? The girl's unintentionally released killing intent was enough to frighten a strong young man stiff. It's only because I took the bullet for my good brother. Although I'm physically fine, her eyes were full of reproach when she looked at me. You're always so careless. Even ordinary people cherish their lives. Do you want me, your sect master, to become a young widow for you? After a brief exchange with Zhang Qiren, we walked together down a small road near the barbecue stalls. I asked them why they wanted to deal with Yueying. Her presence affects the game, and many people die like that in the Black Fist arena. But I don't agree with his explanation. You're killing people, even more ruthlessly than your useless brother. At least he never thought of letting a little girl die. But at that moment, he only let out a cold laugh. He flung off my hand that was gripping his collar. This world is inherently unfair. I considered you a brother. That's why I spoke to you so frankly. Don't even try to report me. Because you know the police don't have any evidence either. But I just sighed. Haven't you ever considered Yueying's true identity? As if he knew what I was about to say. His smile froze. She always wore a mask. You don't know what she looks like, right? But a strange person. You almost killed the girl you loved with your own hands. He stood there woodenly, completely motionless. After a long time, he spoke in a hoarse voice. You must be kidding me. Yueying Xiang, that cold-blooded fighter. How could she possibly be connected to that drunkard next door? What if she drinks, only to numb the pain? Zhang Qiren fell completely silent. I watched helplessly as a man crouched down, shrinking into a ball. I could understand his feelings, and I knew the price of all this. Some things, perhaps fate had already decided them. But the strange man slowly raised his head before me. Thank you for saving her. Anyway, I can't go back. I truly enjoy everything I have now. Awakening my abilities was a stroke of luck. The rules of this world are subtly changing. Chu Gu, you can't escape. But no matter what happens, I'll always consider you a brother. I was just about to say something, but my heart skipped a beat. An extremely dangerous energy was rushing towards Zhang Qiren. I instinctively dodged. A faint golden light shimmered on my skin. Although I had the protection of the iron shirt, the pain, like being pierced by bullets, in my chest was very real. I fell backward weakly, and at the same time, on a tall building, a man was full of surprise. How did it even block this? What he didn't notice was, a woman had appeared behind him at some point. Her terrifying eyes emitted a cold light under the moonlight. A few minutes later, 6 girls with long black hair arrived carrying a skinny man. She threw the man in front of Zhang Qiren. Deal with him. If he causes us any trouble, I won't acknowledge you as my brother. Zhang Qiren looked at Qiu Wuji in surprise. So the experienced Esper from back then, was you, sister-in-law. Unexpectedly, Qiu didn't refute this time. Instead, she gave the man a threatening look, seeing that we hadn't spoken for a long time. So he picked up the unconscious man from the ground. Thanks, brother. I'll take care of everything. Watching his departing back, I understood that urging him to quit was futile. But Qiu's voice was choked with sobs. Why so careless? Have you ever thought that with your mediocre cultivation, you're taking a bullet for someone else? What if you die? I had to start explaining. After all, he's a good brother. I couldn't just stand by and watch someone die. Are you worried about me? Qiu paused, clutching her chest, and said nothing. Her eyes were fixed on mine. Under the moonlight, she slowly leaned closer to me. Because I'm a little confused. Now I'm so comfortable being around you. I even care about your feelings a little. How much of it is because of your quest to find the influence of the Creator God? You think everything I've done is just a setup. Remember that time I pretended to be a female fan? It was my own idea. I wanted to surprise you. Actually, Her lips parted slightly, but there was something I just couldn't say. Looking into her shining eyes, I can no longer hide my inner impulse. Bei Miao Comics, just having you is enough for me. Can you stay by my side forever? My respected Bei Miao Comics. Autumn Sect Leader, Bei Miao Comics. The ancient girl is a stubborn Sundra. I believe men and women should maintain a proper distance. But I see other couples strolling hand in hand in the street. Yet she took my hand. Your world is so strange. Such things should only happen after marriage. After watching Zhang Qiren leave, Qiu and I were walking home together. But she suddenly asked, "It's rare that your good brother gave you such a good opportunity. Why don't we go for a walk outside? I didn't understand her intentions, but she turned her head angrily. If you don't want to, then forget it. I still have to go back and cultivate. Besides, if Zhang Qiren finds out, he'll probably be furious. He just went through a breakup, and now you want to hit on him. Seems to realize they said something wrong. Her voice trailed off. Then, with a soft sound, she turned her head away. A wave of warmth washed over me. Bubble isn't a nice word, let's use a different expression. Let's call it a graceful lady, a gentleman's admiration. Anyway, it's not like you didn't know this already. Qiu Wuji's small face instantly turned crimson. She gritted her teeth, unable to utter a single word for a long time. Anyway, I'm just a fat otaku who wants to have a relationship with a paper person. I'm in love with a paper person. I walked on calmly, but she protested from the side. I'm not a flat character. Since you say you're not a flat character, then I guess I won't fantasize anymore. Could it be that you've fallen for me? You pervert, go die. Bei Miao Comics. Chichio blushed and started to scold angrily. Bei Miao Comics. But when she saw the couple walking their dog out of the residential area, her hand involuntarily went up. Pervert. She mumbled with a pout. If you say that again, I'm ignoring you. I silently muttered to myself, such a proud and stubborn girl. If Qiren hadn't been so swollen back then, and had directly confessed to Yueying, would the story have taken a different turn? So you should say what you need to say. What's so shameful about liking someone? But Chocho became a little dazed. Her heart grew incredibly complicated. She didn't know where this emotion came from. Why are feelings so troublesome? She had clearly disliked this guy before. Their footsteps echoed lightly on the empty street. She secretly glanced at the man beside her. What's he thinking about? Why did he suddenly stop talking? The atmosphere feels strange, but I don't want to let go of his hand. Or should we go back? But her words had barely left her lips, when a gentle force came from his hand. Walk with me a little longer. Watching Qiren's transformation, I felt a lump in my throat, but I didn't know where to begin. Under the nightlights, the two remained silent for a long time. It was Chocho who broke the silence first. Actually, when I asked you what you wanted before, I didn't mean for you to say those lecherous things. What I actually meant was, what kind of world do you want to create? I paused slightly. I've always loved writing books. I feel that showing the stories in my heart to people is a wonderful thing. But later on, I could only present stories that others love to read. What's wrong with writing stories that others love to read? If you don't make money, how will you support me? Support myself. I was a little stunned, but Chocho continued. I'm just telling you. Your true original intention is to create the world in your book. The more full, detailed, and realistic your world becomes, the more qualified you become as a creator god. And in this world, there can be countless stories. Chu Tiange is just one of them. You said before that there are characters first, then the world. Without us, Chu Tiange and I, the world collapses. But I don't think so. Even if Chu Tiange and I were to die, that world would still be that world. By then, you would be a god, and it would be no difficulty for me to exist independently. I suddenly understood. Isn't that what ensemble writing is all about? Everyone can be the protagonist. Chocho looked at me with a hint of relief, but I sensed something amiss in her expression. I said, what's wrong with you today? You said death twice in a row. You can't talk nonsense like that again. She glared at me. That's an order. I won't compromise on this. Her face was slightly flushed. But you don't understand what I meant. So you want your original self to disappear from that world, and stay here forever. She suddenly became furious. Bebe, who said I meant that? You brat, stand still. Don't think like that, Tian. Otherwise, I'll beat you to death. Guys with girlfriends all know this. How adorable a girl's mumbled sounds are while she's sleeping. But I still can't believe my eyes. Last night she was still sulking with me. How come she's lying in my arms today? But just as I was about to hug him, a sharp pain shot through my mind. When I woke up, I found myself hugging a durian. But Chucho, peeking her head in from the doorway, had a mischievous grin. I didn't expect this illusion spell to work so well. I'll punish him slowly next time. It wasn't until she finished brushing her teeth that she realized. The first thing Chu Gu did after waking up was to cultivate. But the way she was rubbing the durian was quite unsightly. She snorted and went into the kitchen. Stop practicing, it's time to eat. But the moment she saw breakfast, her face twitched. My body involuntarily stooped a little. Do I have to endure the durian again today? Chicho glanced at me sideways. Do you think I'm torturing you? When you've mastered the balance, you can stop. But I said that I need absolute silence for writing. I need to concentrate and can't be disturbed. Chocho accepted this explanation. If you could write and cultivate your chi at the same time, that would be almost equivalent to practicing all day. It's much better than your twice-a-day routine, Bebe. How about I add another patch? But her expression suddenly turned disdainful. Bebe Meow Comics. Did you forget what you wrote so quickly? If it weren't for you, this sect master wouldn't be sitting alone in that cave meditating. I understood immediately. It's just like those idle games. If I could also clone myself, wouldn't I just have my clones work and earn money, while I enjoy family life? It seems you've read my mind. Her fist landed on my forehead the next second. You lecher, what are you thinking about? Forget about soul splitting. It's impossible without hundreds of years of cultivation. But multitasking is something you can try now. But you need to be careful. If you feel uncomfortable, you have to stop. Could it be that Master is concerned about me? She snorted without replying. As your fan, I should urge you to write more. Oh, I understand. So you're just addicted to role-playing. I didn't. Chicho's furious roar. But after regaining her composure, she felt her face burning. What on earth was I saying just now? Why did I just assume he's a little fan of mine? Looking at her puffed-up appearance, I suddenly felt a strange itch and had an idea. How about you become my community manager? She was a little curious. What's a community manager? It's just managing my fan group for me. Usually checking the comments section, organizing monthly ticket events, and things like that. Occasionally, I contact the platform, and things like character avatars and character card creation. But my inner thoughts are far from that. Waiting for Chiyo Wuji to completely take over the role of female assistant. The other authors will be so envious they'll die. Holding her little pig pillow, she felt a little confused. What character card are you talking about? It's this thing. When a character reaches a certain star level, you can make a birthday item card for them. Upon hearing the words, birthday, her eyes lit up. Is it for me? But you don't even have an avatar yet. Let's not worry about that for now. I instinctively wanted to ruffle her hair, but I stopped myself after thinking about it. But she didn't seem to notice my movements at all. She seemed very interested in this matter. Can I use my photos for the illustrations? That's the artist's job. But as the operations manager, you can supervise them. And you can ask for revisions if you're unsatisfied. She suddenly became energetic. I'll take this job. I can't let them make me look ugly. So, that day in the fan group, everyone suddenly discovered a new administrator had appeared. The profile picture was very basic. Just a mother penguin with a flower on its head. The name was also simple, just 3 characters. Autumn Limitless. The girl, while the man was typing, secretly looked at the study materials in the fan group. But before long, everyone in the group was silenced. Her little face turned red with anger. Birds of a feather flocked together. You hooligans just love watching this unhealthy stuff. Only then did I realize that she was also a woman of several thousand years, an old woman. She actually knew quite a lot in certain aspects. Completely unlike the naive and innocent ancient girl next door. So easy to deceive. It was after Chiyo told me the method of multitasking that I started trying to code and cultivate simultaneously. But I felt strange during this process. Looking at the text on the document, I had a kind of illusory vision. It was as if a real world from a book appeared before my eyes. But Chiyo behind me was holding up her phone, looking extremely anxious. I called Chugu many times, but she didn't respond. She could only huffily return to her room. How can this girl be so engrossed in writing? She doesn't even pay attention to me. Meanwhile, in the world of the book, Chu Tiange, in the instance dungeon, was helping. He stared blankly at a wildflower. Have you noticed? The scenery around us seems to be more and more vivid. I feel like I can sense the life within it. But the cultivator beside him just smiled. That's normal. After all, you're already a foundation establishment cultivator. I felt the same way when I first broke through. Chu Tiange, however, remained silent. He clearly understood that this wasn't due to cultivation. He used to feel like a pair of eyes were always watching him. But now, that feeling is slowly fading away. It's like the fate hanging over me is gradually shifting. But I'm just a small, insignificant cultivator. How can I possibly understand this transformation into a divine being? Bebe Meow Comics, only the strong can savor this. And in the distant Inferno prison, Yan Ganlai opened his eyes amidst the raging flames. At that very moment, Bebe Meow Comics, he, like Chiyo Wuji, also sensed the existence of Heaven's Tao. Originally, Chiyo Wuji discovered it earlier than he did. He let out a thunderous laugh. But now, we are the same. Meanwhile, I also snapped back to reality. Just now, I only sensed the world within the book. But now, it feels increasingly real, like I'm actually there. The destined stepping stone appeared on time in the training ground. Heaven's will, ever present. At this moment, I no longer feel like a novelist. I only realized it with the sound of the keyboard. I am the god of this world. The fate of every character bloomed and faded at my fingertips. I decided the joys, sorrows, life, and death of people. But soon, I woke up in front of my computer. It turned out I had fallen asleep while typing. Surprisingly, that 10,000-word manuscript lay peacefully in the document. I realized I could completely control the entire direction of the plot in the book. If I directly wrote that Chiyo Wuji madly fell in love with the creator god, what would happen? But just as I was lost in thought, my train of thought was interrupted by the urgent ringing of my phone. But as soon as I opened the screen, I was dumbfounded. The group chat was full of members who had been muted by Chiyo. Some people had just sent a suggestive emoji before she silenced them. Realizing something was wrong, I quickly private messaged the other administrators. But they actually had no objections to Chiyo's actions. This female administrator is so funny. At first, when someone posted a license plate number, she even asked what it was. Then she went to look it up. Half an hour later, she finally came back and silenced everyone who had posted license plate numbers. So it's true, birds of a feather flock together. They're all lechers. My hidden expression behind the screen involuntarily twitched. What's wrong with this bunch? They said the newcomer is a female manager, but the group members don't seem to feel they've done anything wrong. That female manager is so cute. I feel like she's really imitating Chiu Wuji's tone. At this moment, I could already feel killing intent behind me. I had no choice but to hold up the durian. Chiu was holding her arms, looking disgusted. Come clean. What does that cosplay mean? I quickly explained that it's a modern form of entertainment. It's dressing up as popular characters. She thought about it and found it somewhat reasonable. So that means I'm a popular character, right? I suppose so. But I really didn't dare tell her about those online group friends. What's going on in your head? You even created a special driving group. Just how perverted are you? Her eyes are like she's looking at something unclean. Stay away from those kinds of groups. Look at that, future self-improvement group. They're so ambitious. Cold sweat poured down my face. Is that the sales group from the downstairs sales office? Could she have been fooled by those sleep on the floor today, sleep on a board tomorrow tactics? Tricked by those sleep on the floor today, sleep on a board tomorrow schemes? But Chicho was changing clothes nearby. This world is truly magical. I'm going out to buy some shen paper. And I'll see if there are any nice potted plants to bring back. I'll call out from behind. Don't take the subway, you can't right now. But she puffed up her cheeks and waved her hand dismissively. I've looked into it, the bus is fine. Just a mask will do. I've checked all the routes. Oh well, if all else fails, I'll just teleport myself. Looking at the suddenly closed gate. Why do I feel like she fled in shame and embarrassment? What learning materials did she actually see? I'll leave a message in the group chat. You just drive, Dad will figure out a solution. Don't worry about it. I'm used to it, I'm numb to it, I've become accustomed to it. Shuda, you're so brave. I'll add an extra update. Meanwhile, on the bus, a solid iron handrail was actually twisted into a pretzel. Bebe meow, Chugu, you did that on purpose, right? You're taking advantage of being the group admin, thinking I can't mute you, aren't you? 7 Meow Comics. I only glanced at the study materials in the group. An ancient girl squeezed the bus handrail until it creaked, although she didn't want to mind it, but her mind was full of kisses. Scenes of hugging and lifting high. These scoundrels are up to no good. Just now, Jocho made me carry the durian again. There was mockery in her eyes as she looked at me. The esteemed Father God actually enjoys watching this kind of thing. And I'm somewhat bewildered. How can someone be angry and blushing at the same time? Could it be that she saw the study materials her group friend sent? She tied up her ponytail in a huff. Just do some self-reflection. I'm going out to buy some groceries. And I'll see if there are any nice potted plants. But the way she slammed the door looked like a desperate escape. That pig-headed man never had good intentions. Chiu Wuji silently cursed in her heart. Half at Chu Gu, half at herself. She actually sent a suggestive message to the group chat. Why didn't I just smash his head in when I first arrived? Why didn't I flatten his dog head then? Recalling what I just saw, my worldview has been completely shattered. A group of young men and women are having a completely unrestrained hot spring trip. The demon realm truly is the demon realm. Such a thing could actually be recorded, and spread to others. Her face felt a little hot. If it were with Chu Gu doing these things. No, what am I even thinking? Her eyes drifted to the window. Is this a bit of an overreaction? Judging by their language patterns, it seems. They're used to seeing strange things. It's my behavior that stands out. A phrase from Chu Gu echoed in her mind. But Chiu Wuji, how well do you really know me? She unconsciously clenched her fists. It seems I haven't truly entered his world. But the driver's voice pulled her back to reality the next moment. Miss, this is your stop. Only then did Jocho realize she was the only passenger left on the bus. It's all that damn pervert's fault, with his twisted mind. I shouldn't even be thinking about him. But the next moment, a gentle breeze scattered her thoughts. She looked around. Unlike the city overpasses, the fresh air here felt strangely familiar. Although the road is still an oil road, she finally saw in this world green mountains and rivers, vast rice paddies, as if she had returned to the ancient world. The summer morning sun was already very strong. A young man worked in a field, his thin shirt soaked with sweat. Chicho watched for a while and nodded slightly. She said that the world is impetuous, and people are impatient with hardship. But actually, there are still many diligent people. But as she watched, she gradually felt something was wrong. The young people working seemed to have some kind of strange power. This power was very strange. It was completely different from her cognitive system. The man working turned around. The moment he saw Jocho, he almost drooled. As if remembering something, he slyly pulled out a pen, and turned away to scribble on his face. Chicho was a little confused, but when the man turned around, she still blinked in surprise. She inexplicably found him incredibly handsome, but she quickly reacted. Why did this guy have to write handsome all over his face? It seems his ability is to change how others perceive him, but that can't fool the eyes of a 10,000-year-old maiden cultivator. The man raised an eyebrow. Even being handsome won't work. With another rustling sound, he directly changed the words on his face to, "You like me. You're not getting away with this." But he just turned his head, and was met with the bottom of a high heel. "You dare use mind control techniques on me? Even he doesn't dare try to influence my mind." The young man was kicked, spinning twice in the air, half lying on the ridge, groaning. Whose deceitful heart is written all over their face. This crappy superpower is completely useless. Sending a beautiful woman away, I shouldn't have said that I was wrong. Chichio felt both angry and amused, but she was also a little shocked inside. I once thought superpowers were similar to a single spell in the Tao, but now it seems completely different from immortal arts. Meanwhile, a comment appeared in my fan group. It said, "From now on, if anyone says they were served by a beautiful woman, and were happy about it, Chuda, I'll definitely slap them." This last line is a continuation of the previous comment. Even if Chiou Wuji came, it wouldn't work. No one in the Lance Saie group paid him any attention. Everyone was angrily cursing the author, calling him a cliffhanger dog. I want to. But I, looking at my phone, didn't care. Ha ha ha, come and fight me if you dare. But the next moment, a shadowy figure lunged out from my screen. It hit my face squarely. Luckily, my protective energy field shielded me, so I didn't feel any pain. But I broke out in a cold sweat. A normal person would probably think it was a hallucination. But I, who am aware of paranormal abilities, sensed danger. In a distant room, a fat man huddled together, hands covering himself. "Am I typing with an iron mask on, you great fool?" But the next moment, his voice turned cold. "Another job. Speak. Dead or alive?" This girl is very panicked right now. She was cooking just now. A lecher actually ran over and complimented her on her looks. It made her little heart beat non-stop. Chichio, who had been out for a walk, returned home. But I became a little puzzled. Why did she only bring back a piece of dogtail grass after being out for so long? She gave me a scornful look. "You're nothing but a weed. You don't deserve this." I recalled missing the bus because of Chu Gu. Her face flushed slightly. "I wouldn't say I picked it because I missed my stop. You just don't know how to appreciate it." She spread out rice paper on the dining table. She adopted the posture of an ancient calligrapher. I couldn't help but be surprised. I had never imagined she possessed such accomplishments as playing the qin, chess, calligraphy, and painting. The her before me gave me a feeling of gradually detaching from fiction. She didn't write the poem about the origin of her own name. Instead, it was the famous Zhuangzi's dream of a butterfly. Her expression was unusually calm. When I saw this story, I wondered, was it you who created me? Or did I create myself in pursuit of the Tao? I conceived of a creator god. My eyes widened in astonishment. Could she mean that she wants to leave me and live independently? But she smiled playfully in front of me, as if she had guessed my thoughts. "What are you thinking?" "I was just kidding. It's just that your world feels so vast, and I haven't even had a chance to explore it properly. Isn't that why I need your guidance, Father God?" I awkwardly changed the subject. "Tell me, why did you suddenly think of writing poetry?" But she turned her head, a little serious. "It's all because of you, you silly goose. I've infused these words with magic. Hanging them in the living room should roughly deter intruders. It'll act as a kind of enchantment. I found the superpowers in this world very interesting today. They even have an effect on me. What if I go back and you're attacked while I'm gone? You go out to pick a dog's tail grass, and you encounter a superpower attack." I instinctively grabbed Chiochio's hand. "Are you hurt anywhere?" Her face flushed suddenly. "I don't need your concern. It was just a petty thief. Besides, am I not the heroine in your story? It's not that easy to get into trouble." My heart finally calmed down. What kind of ability is that? It even worked on our autumn sect master. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she gazed at my face. But ultimately she said nothing, and leisurely went into the kitchen. "I'm going to cook. You should go do what you need to do." Watching the man scratch his head, a warm feeling flowed through her heart. His face is still more pleasing to the eye. He's quite handsome even without writing. I don't know when. Cooking for him has become a daily routine. But just then, a warmth came from behind her. "You today are quite good looking." Hearing the man's inexplicable praise, she abruptly turned her head. "I know very well, you don't need to say it. Why aren't you cooking? What are you spacing out for?" I quickly pressed the rice cooker's switch. The small kitchen only had the sound of rushing water. I turned to look at Chiou Wuji's appearance. It was as if we had a home. "How about we go out tonight?" She was a little stunned. "Why did you suddenly think of this?" I realized that for so long, I haven't really taken you out to have fun. Some things a modern girl should experience. This ancient girl's biggest question right now is, what exactly is Qixi Festival that everyone's talking about? We were just out strolling around the amusement park. But then a little girl grabbed my sleeve. "Brother, your girlfriend is so pretty. It's Qixi Festival, buy a flower." Chichio's little face turned crimson. What does girlfriend even mean? That price. We haven't even gotten married yet. Just watching Chichio cook for me, I'm increasingly getting the feeling of having a home. I suggested we go out for a stroll tonight. I should also take you to experience some modern Things a modern girl should experience. Isn't that just going out to play? She let out a little, without objecting. But she still couldn't help opening Baidu. What does it mean when a man wants to take you out? But the answer was somewhat unexpected. The words, "he's totally into you," flashed before her eyes. Her mind flashed back to the first time. She held hands with Chu Gu. Would that count as a date with him?